Welcome, 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 folks. We're admitting everyone. Thank you for waiting in the waiting room. We'll have most people joining us here in the next minute, and we'll get started. Also knowing that people will join throughout the day. It's great to see many familiar faces. We really appreciate folks coming time after time to these summits. Well, I'm going to get us started. I know more folks are coming in through the waiting room, but let me get started by introducing myself first. I am Leslie Schaller. I am the Director of Programs at the Appalachian Center for Economic Networks, or commonly referred to as ACENET. ACENET has been one of many anchor organizations within the Central Appalachian Network, working with our co-hosts from USDA to put these summits together. So this is our fourth in a series of the Fair Food System Summits. I'm going to share our screen here so that you can take a gander at cannetworks.org. If you want to share information about this summit, maybe with other stakeholders or colleagues within your subregion, I would also encourage you to share any of the information from this summit or from any of the previous summits. And you can do that really easily by going to cannetwork.org, clicking on a Fair Food System summit page. Again, this is presented by the Central Appalachian Network in partnership with the United States Department of Agriculture. And again, shout out to our sponsors, the Educational Foundation of America, Foundation for a Healthy Kentucky, and the Sugar Bush Valley Impact Investments have all been key partners in helping us put these 6 summits together. So we're more than halfway through now at the end of today. This is summit number 4. When we conceived these summits, back in the spring, earlier this year, we thought, oh, let's host them on the 4th Thursday of every month. Boy, doesn't that sound like a good schedule that people will consistently remember. Well, somehow it escaped our minds that, hey, a couple things happen in the 4th week, typically of November and December. So because of Thanksgiving, because of the holiday periods in December, we're going to skip a summit in November. We will probably look at another date at some point, I would say in the early part of December. So once again, we don't have that date nailed down. I'm sure it will follow the same format, 9 to 1. Will it be on a Thursday in December? That remains to be seen. So please keep in touch with us. You can follow both the website for CAN as well as CAN social media, or many of the other partners who have been preparing these agendas and co-hosting these summits. But again, I just want to remind you, this is a 6-part series. Probably our focus in December for Summit 5 will be moving forward, identifying a lot of the incredible local food, regional food system infrastructure that has been developed over the last 10, 20, 30 years. So you'll be hearing from a number of panelists who operate food hubs, commercial kitchens, kitchen incubators, produce auctions. We'll probably hear more from some of our social enterprise partners who have been developing community markets, but we'll really focus on where we're at with infrastructure development particularly around production, processing, aggregation, and distribution. And then we'll really focus on where we're headed. We know that with unprecedented investment from many of our public funders, as well as a renewed interest from philanthropy, there's probably going to be significant investment in the development of infrastructure and connecting that infrastructure throughout the region. So stay tuned. We'll be able to get that information out here probably by mid-November. Also, we're always interested in any recommendations you might have. You might be doing similar work within your community, within your subregion, within your state in Central Appalachia, and we always want to hear from more folks that we might be a little less familiar with, maybe folks who are a little less active within the Central Appalachian Network. So CAN and USDA has 5 goals for the summits. You know, this is first and foremost our ability to facilitate a learning environment. So again, underscoring that possibility of peer exchange. We definitely want to engage a coalition of more organizations, especially doing work to support more resilient and accessible community food systems. Technical assistance from USDA and other qualified providers certainly are highlighted in every summit agenda. And as I pretty much underscored already, we know that there is a lot of opportunity out there in the coming years, months, to secure more private investment, especially around nutrition security. We still struggle to a large degree in many of our rural townships and villages for food security. So how do we create a fair food system that creates access for all? And then we invite other nonprofit partners to really engage, hopefully within the working groups of the Central Appalachian Network. We have 3 food and ag system working groups. If you're not familiar with them, you can also visit the CAN website and learn more about those working groups. Many of the co-chairs are also participating from the working groups on encouraging folks who are attending these summits. So if you want more information, just ask us in the chat and we can connect you with some of those co-chairs. But the working groups really focus on what we refer to as PAD, that processing, aggregation, and distribution infrastructure. We have a working group focused on healthy food access, and the working group that has really spearheaded these summits. And then we have another working group focused on beginning farmers. And I think our focus right now, particularly in that group, is around land access. So just a couple housekeeping issues. We have a packed agenda. We have still been securing some of our speakers. So we'll have moderators for each of these sessions that will be introducing our presenters. All our presenters will be sharing their story. We're going to return to our friends at the early part of the agenda from Eastern Kentucky to continue, I think, that story of how many folks at a very grassroots level are responding to many of the challenges. So that ongoing flood response is something that we're going to continue to be attentive to. Also, we know that sometimes it's hard for people to find time in their day to share their evaluation of these summits. So Jennifer on the Community Farm Alliance, one of our key co-organizers of the summit, has prepared an evaluation that will be easily accessible and quick for you to do at the end of today's session. So Jennifer, I'm wondering if you'd like to maybe just say a few words about the evaluation. Hopefully, if you don't have the opportunity to stay with us throughout the whole session today, there's always ways for us to be able to get more information.
Absolutely. It is a short 4-question survey, and we can also send out a link afterwards for folks who may have to leave. But that just gives us a little more insight into what y'all want to see on down the road.
Yep. Thank you, Jennifer. And then during the wrap up, I'll talk a little bit more about Summit 5 and 6. We're going to, I think, change it up a little bit in January for Summit 6. We have additional partners who are engaging with us from the Sustainable Ag Funders Network, as well as the Appalachian Regional Commission. So I think when we go deeper into Summit 6, we'll have probably many more funders engaged to share some of the opportunities on the horizon through those programs. So that's it for me. I'm going to pass the baton now to Martin Richards of Community Farm Alliance, and he will do the introduction of Mallory Koenig.
Thank you, Leslie. Yes, I do have the honor of introducing Dr. Mallory Koenig. She is the National Program Leader in the Division of Nutrition Institute of Food Safety and in Nutrition at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or as most of us know, NIFA. Dr. Koenig has been with NIFA for a while, but I only became introduced to her through our GusNIP Finney grants, and I cannot say enough about Dr. Koenig and her staff. Have been very, very helpful in our work with them, and so I'm really delighted to introduce her today. So thank you, Mallory. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. I appreciate the invitation to be part of this Fair Food Summit of Central Appalachian Network today. I am originally from Parkersburg, West Virginia, in the Ohio River Valley, and I did my clinical nutrition training with West Virginia University in their community medicine program. So I got to go back to Parkersburg for that training, and it's wonderful and very much feels like a homecoming to be here with you today. And learning more and more about all the wonderful work that you all do. I have been asked to share with you some overviews of one of the grant programs that I provide leadership to. And it is called the Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program Portfolio. As a USDA employee, we all very much share your goals and your ambition to ensure fair and equitable access to all of our programs. So please, if there are any opportunities that you observe for us to ensure that our programs are reaching everyone who's eligible for them, do not hesitate to let us know and to utilize the resources shown here. I like to begin, since USDA is such a big place, with making clear where my role at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture fits in. So the U.S. Department of Agriculture is organized into 8 different mission areas, and NIFA is part of the Research, Education, and Economics mission area. The agency is focused on extramural funding, So it's the Agricultural Research Service that does in-house research. National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA, we fund research, education, and extension outreach work in many, many different topics, from soil health to plant health to animal health to human health and healthy communities across our great nation. It is our goal for these programs to continue to be on the cutting edge of addressing all of the challenges that food and agriculture is experiencing. This is my favorite slide of my presentations. What you're looking at here is the GusNIP team. Many of you may be familiar with Suzanne Sluka, who is our Deputy Director in the Institute of Food Safety and Nutrition, as well as Deirdre Chester, who's the Director of the Division of Nutrition. And then I'm that third picture from the left on the top. And in January, the GusNIP team is welcoming an additional national program leader, Pascal Jean, to the team. For many of you who have been part of the Food Insecurity Nutrition Incentive, or FINI, pilots from 2014 to 2018, you may already know Pascal. She was previously with NIFA as a program specialist, working and providing leadership support to FINI, and we're just thrilled to have her back and joining the GusNIP team in its next evolution. Also, you can always reach out to Ryan Cornegay, Stephanie Morris, Summer LaRose, Beth Curling, Stephanie Smith on our team. We also on our team have Sheila Fleischhacker, who's National Science Liaison across the food safety and nutrition portfolio. Kiva Shepard, shown here as a critical member of our team when it comes to all of the logistics and support for peer review panels. She is excellent, and we could not function without her. And the last team members that I want to highlight are our food and nutrition service colleagues. So this is a partnership with another USDA agency that is part of, when I mentioned some mission areas, it's part of the Food and Nutrition Consumer Service mission area. The Food and Nutrition Service team members include Margaret Ortiz, Gabriel Sandler, and Heather Garcia. Heather Garcia is pictured here, and they provide key SNAP and NAP policy guidance and updates to the GusNIP team. Overall, looking now into fiscal year 2023 for USDA, we just began, now that it's October, a brand new fiscal year. The Gus Schumacher Nutrition Incentive Program portfolio has $49 million available to support grant projects. This is across 3 different competitive grant programs. The Nutrition Incentive Program, that really built and evolved from the FINI pilot. And this is the program with that critical partnership with the Food Nutrition Service that provides financial incentives to purchase fruits and vegetables to families participating in Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program in the 50 states, the District of Columbia, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, or participating in the Nutrition Assistance Program block grants for Puerto Rico, American Samoa, and the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands. There's $36 million available to support these projects in fiscal year 23. And this is a program that does require a dollar-for-dollar matching, sometimes called 100% matching, meaning that every federal dollar requested needs to have a local dollar in cash match or in-kind matching support for the project that would be implemented. And you can see here that there's 3 different program area priorities, and that's because this program is designed for growth, Growth from pilot to standard all the way to large scale projects. And the next grant program that I'll speak a little bit more about later is the Produce Prescription Program. This is a program where there's $5 million available in fiscal year 23. There's no matching in this program, and these projects provide prescriptions or vouchers to income eligible individuals so that they can procure fresh fruits and vegetables. And the ultimate goal is for the produce prescription projects is to improve fruit and vegetable consumption and overall dietary health, individual and household food security, as well as healthcare utilization and associated costs. Then the third competitive grant program is what we call the Training, Technical Assistance, Evaluation, and Information Centers Cooperative Agreements, or Technical Assistance or Evaluation, or NTAE just for short. And this year, 2023, is the second time this cooperative agreement will be recompeted. It's a 4-year cooperative agreement. And what the cooperative agreement means is that the folks who submit a proposal are proposing to work in partnership, right, with USDA NIFA to ensure that the support services, the evaluation and data aggregation services for the nutrition incentive and produce prescription community are provided at a high level and continue to keep track of everything we're learning and enhance, right, nutrition incentive and produce prescription projects. Some additional details about the nutrition incentive program. The focus here is on, right, incentivizing the purchase of fruits and vegetables. Again, this is meant to be a financial incentive. The definition of fruits and vegetables utilized here is broad, right? Any variety of fresh, canned, dried, frozen, whole or cut fruits and vegetables without added sugar, right? Fats, oils, or salt. This includes wild, edible, and medicinal plants, right? This includes spices and seasoning, and also plants, right, like a tomato plant, right, a plant that could then be cultivated for fruits and vegetables for consumption. I will also say that there is significant flexibility for project teams to design what the fruit and vegetable, right, financial incentive structure may be. I know many of you are very familiar, right, with Double Up Kentucky and the Double Up model. There's the opportunity to have that earn and redeem model, right, dollar for dollar. There's an opportunity to have an immediate discount. So lots of ways to ensure that a nutrition incentive project is truly tailored to best align with the community. Our priorities in this program area include projects that are serving historically underrepresented communities and underrepresented geographies in the portfolio. And we've got the definitions provided there. For that underrepresented geographies, those are, right, US geographies, right, states or territories that have yet to have, right, a FINI or a GusNIP project operating, right, in that area. Since this grant program, right, truly leverages the nutrition assistance programs of SNAP and NAP, there needs to be that key partnership and collaboration from, right, the state or territory SNAP or NAP agency. So all of these proposals do need to have a letter of support from the state or territory SNAP or NAP agency. And that letter of support should make clear what the role of SNAP or NAP may be related to the project. Right, we commonly see perhaps assistance in reaching out to potential participants, right, who could utilize the fruit and vegetable incentives offered. If there are going to be any enhancements made to point of sale systems or EBT systems for that earning and redeeming those incentives, that right, be all included clearly in that letter of support. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and transition to the produce prescription program briefly. The produce prescription program, right, has a slightly different focus. It's really intended to be working hand in hand with healthcare partners. Whether that healthcare partner is a registered nurse, a registered dietitian, a primary care provider, that the applicant organization is working with that healthcare partner to determine what diet-related health conditions, right, a produce prescription may be written for, what that dosage on that prescription should be, what that duration should be for the fresh fruits and vegetables. As I already mentioned, there are 3 goals for all produce prescription projects, right, in the area of fruit and vegetable consumption, food insecurity, and then healthcare utilization and associated costs. A key difference here is that the focus in produce prescription is on fresh fruits and vegetables, right? So that is just an important distinction between the nutrition incentive program and the produce prescription program. The produce prescription program, right, also prioritizes and strongly encourages submissions where underrepresented communities and underrepresented geographies would be supported. And this includes rural and remote communities. And you'll see the geographies where produce prescription projects, GusNIP produce prescription projects are not yet operating, shown here. The produce prescription program is a younger program than the nutrition incentive program, right? The produce prescription program was established and its first year of operation was 2019. It was not originally part of the FINI pilot. And because of that strong collaboration with healthcare partners, there is the necessary documentation of the healthcare partner, and the healthcare partner letter of support. What I really want to highlight here are that there are 4 categories that a healthcare partner can fall into, right? Could be a hospital, could be a federally qualified health center, it could be a Veterans Affairs hospital or clinic, or a healthcare provider group, right? So if you have a local healthcare provider group in community medicine, right, that's operating many clinics in your area, that healthcare provider group can be that, can meet that healthcare partner requirement. What's important here, again, is to really show the strength and the nature of that collaboration and the division of responsibilities, right? Is the healthcare partner going to be screening? Is the healthcare partner going to be ensuring eligible individuals, or I should say eligibility of the individuals for enrollment? Or is that going to be perhaps, after there's a screening referral, something that the primary applicant does, really just making sure that that's all laid out. Is there going to be a nutrition education component that's, let's say delivered by registered dietitians that are part of the healthcare system? Or is that nutrition education component perhaps going to come from community resources, right? Such as the Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program, or WIC Nutrition Education, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education, right? There's many options. And we do encourage, beyond those 4 healthcare partners, additional partnerships to really ensure that the project proposed is best aligned with what the community would like to see. And I also want to make everyone aware that since these are competitive grant programs, NIFA can't operate them in a vacuum. NIFA relies heavily on our volunteer peer review panelists. It's their lived experience, it's their technical expertise that evaluates these proposals, for their technical merit. And without that, these competitive grant programs, they are truly the foundation that we rely on. So we really encourage anyone who's interested in learning more about these programs, maybe you want to learn more about it. You may not want to apply this year. If you have the time, really volunteering to serve as a reviewer or a panelist is an excellent way to understand NIFA's peer review process, and of course, the specific grant program that your expertise aligns with. What this QR code takes you to is NIFA's peer review system, where a volunteer reviewer form can be completed, and that puts you into a NIFA database, right? Where NIFA, program specialists, NIFA national program leaders, NIFA panel managers then can, right, identify that expertise and reach out to you and say, would you be interested in serving on, whatever the program panel is, right? We're really looking for people with the expertise that you have. So with that, I want to make sure I have plenty of time to answer any of your questions, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Mallory. Really appreciate it, and did not know you were from West Virginia, so kind of a welcome back.
Thank you.
And even though we worked together for years, I learned new things today. So thank you so much. So any questions? And I haven't actually been monitoring the chat. Are there anything in the chat, or anybody have anything they just want to ask directly?
Yeah, raise your hand maybe, or even unmute yourself, and then we'll know you want to ask a question.
And there will be a copy of Dr. Koenig's slides available via PDF.
Yes, I will be sharing that with Megan.
Wow.
So I do see
I
one
have
about
a
the link
question.
to FNS, right, state agency contacts, and the Food and Nutrition Service does have a website for that, and I will be sure to drop that in the chat. And if it takes me a little longer than that to find it, I'll be sure to include it in my email to Megan.
Fantastic. So I'm wondering, as we, I think throughout Central Appalachia, find more interest from our healthcare partners to engage in this work, do you have any advice or maybe even encouragement for those healthcare providers to participate in these programs with us?
I mean, honestly, I would say it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. There's a lot of healthcare organizations and healthcare centers, right, that are wanting to partner with community organizations, and I would say, really, if you're uncomfortable, just sort of, phoning a friend who's in the same space and seeing what the opportunities are. One of the added benefits and services of the GusNIP program is that Technical Assistance and Evaluation Center. So the current awardee of that NTAE cooperative agreement created the Nutrition Incentive Hub, and I'll put the website in there. And that Nutrition Incentive Hub creates, fully public, fully open communities of practice. And so joining, for example, the produce prescription community of practice, to get in there and hear who else is there, what they're working on, can be a smaller way, a little bit more intimate way of knowing who might be, a neighbor in a neighboring area that could feel a little less like a cold call. And I think that's a great way to kind of, within your community and within the larger produce prescription community, make those connections and find those, those mission alignments that really lead to strong proposals.
So I've got a question. So there's a couple states. I know Massachusetts is one that's got a Medicare waiver for box programs. So how do you see, and let's assume that that approach may become more universal. So how do you see the produce prescription program through GusNIP aligning with that kind of effort?
Yeah, so I'll certainly say that there are current GusNIP produce prescription projects in Massachusetts and in California, which are both states that do have these waivers that allow coverage for these kinds of activities within Medicare and Medicaid. So in those projects, right, we've seen a lot of wonderful advancements, right? When there's additional resources that are and additional flexibilities, we're getting these wonderful, right, case studies that are informing more and more work. Sort of, stepping back and looking at this more nationally, I would say we're hearing at the White House conference, right? Right, we're hearing a lot of recommendations, right? We're hearing a lot of lessons learned from geographies that have these waivers and geographies that don't. So certainly, as a lot of those regional conversations continue to build and be engaged, if there are opportunities, right, that you all can see, beyond the existing structures, right? Because GusNet produce prescription, right, it lives within those existing structures, within all the existing legislation, but really looking to the future, those I would say are excellent opportunities to share. And NIFA is also having a NIFA listening session related to our programs, right? So across GusNIP, Community Food Projects, Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program, and I'll also share the link to that in the chat.
So I think we have maybe time for one more question. I see Patty put in here mentioning significant flexibility in the NIFA program. Patty, could you be a little more specific?
I'm not sure I can be. I think what I'm looking for is what are the edges of this that we may not be seeing yet? What do you, could you explain where the flexibility is in the program? Maybe that's a more direct question.
Sure. So with the design of a fruit and vegetable incentive project and a produce prescription project, so so for the fruit and vegetable incentive models, right, there's 3 possible models, and then even within those models, and just briefly, it could be that an incentive is earned on a SNAP transaction and then spent on fruits and vegetables. Right, the reverse, it can be earned when buying fruits and vegetables and then spent on SNAP, or could be, right, earned on fruits and vegetables, spent on fruits and vegetables, right? So in that, you've got those 3 models. 2 of them do have to be earn and redeem in separate transactions, but the fruit and veggies for fruit and veggies model, it can be the same exact transaction, right? It can be a discount, and there's flexibility for what that ratio is and what that discount is, right? So it could be 50%, it could be 75%, right? It could, there is that, double up is extremely common, has been extremely successful, right? That's 1-to-1. There are projects out there that are testing ratios of 1-to-2, right? What might make the most sense? Additional flexibility that I would highlight is what fruits and veggies are being incentivized. Are they local? Right? Are they local to your region? Are they local to 400 miles? Are they local to your state? That can all be defined by the project team. Do you want to leverage WIC approved foods for a particular reason? That can all be discussion, right? And clear rationale presented in a proposal for, like, this is why we want our design, right, to be what it is. And then similarly, right, for produce prescription, there could be a very particular focus, right? Maybe maternal and child health, right? Maybe birth weight really is something that you want to focus on, but it's so broad. It can be any diet related chronic disease, right? So that's sort of what I mean about so much flexibility. And same with the prescription dosage, right? Is it going to be dosed by family member? Is it going to be a prescription that is renewed for 6 months? Is it going to be a prescription that's renewed for a year? All of that, we're really looking to the expertise of the project teams to say, this is the way we want to design it and why.
I'll say one last thing, and Mallory, I'm not going to hold you to anything about when the next round is going to be released. There has been some indication of maybe March. But, Patty, I would encourage you, and, we have, the Community Farm Alliance have had several Finney GusNIP grants. And the NIFA RFP and application can be intimidating. But just take your time, work through it. And I think, as Mallory said, there is a lot of flexibility. There are options out there, and I think the community of practice folks with the hub are very helpful. So I just encourage anybody who this sounds like might be a good fit for what you're currently doing or what you'd like to do. Go ahead and start working on that now, because if you wait until the RFP is released, then suddenly you find yourself under the gun with a pretty involved application.
Yeah, I'll enhance that and say we do provide a lot of resources on our GusNIP website, right? So frequently asked questions related to SNAP, frequently asked questions, specific to the produce prescription program or the nutrition incentive program, and we update that every RFA release. We also offer webinars, right? So I think once a request for proposals comes out, there will always be an updated webinar for that particular year, but the webinars from last year are public, right? So if this sort of tasting has whet your appetite, listening to those webinars that kind of get into the details of what, right, the 2022 application cycle was like could be extremely helpful. There is, right, my job is helping people find the grant program that's right for them. So certainly, right, reaching out to me, of course, reaching out to the Nutrition Incentive Hub. There is a consultation, right, with that technical assistance team to help any interested applicant pull together a competitive proposal, and that's across the board for all applicants to Nutrition Incentive Program and Produce Prescription Program. I'll also say last year we published a 2-year RFA. So in that RFA, there is the anticipated application due date for 2023. And that's what Martin said, right? March 2023 is the anticipated 2023 due date that was published in the 2022 RFA. I'm also going to drop into the chat what NIFA calls our upcoming RFA calendar. We've heard from our stakeholders how essential to planning an entire year is to have those anticipated publication dates for RFAs, right, across our soil health, our plant health, right, our community nutrition portfolios. And so that is subject to change, but that's NIFA really saying, hey, it's October, it's the beginning of our new fiscal year. This is what we anticipate. We want you to have this information when you're thinking about when you need to be meeting with potential partners and your project teams to perhaps be pulling together proposals.
Thank you so much, Dr. Koenings. We really appreciate it. Clearly, we should have allowed a little more time for this, but I think hopefully between today, what's been in the chat, and the follow-up stuff, that folks have got a path forward for this. So thank you very
absolutely
much.
Yep, I'll share my slides, and if you find there might be information that could be useful in a deep dive down the road, I'm happy to hear from you and find out what those opportunities are. Thank you all so much. Have a great meeting.
All right, so I guess it's time to move on to free farmers markets in response to Kentucky's flooding.
Yes, it is. And as Leslie mentioned earlier, I'm Jennifer Weber with Community Farm Alliance. And in our last summit, we heard from Lindsay with the Lee Initiative and from the funders' perspective on one of their responses to the flooding. And today I'm delighted to have my colleagues from Southeastern Kentucky with us to share what it was like on the ground. So I'm going to turn it over to Kirsten, Kelsey, Reed, James, and Connie. Take it away.
Okay, I'm going to begin. My name is Kirsten Webb, and I am the local markets coordinator for North Fork Local Food. I'm going to share my screen, or at least try to remember how to do this. So forgive me. Okay, are y'all seeing it? Is it working? Okay, great. All right, so to begin with, I woke up to this. It was a photo. This is one of our farmers. It's Michelle Hertz Farm. And when I first saw this, it was, I guess it's like one of those things that's really hard to express unless you've been through it, just the complete and total disbelief of what was happening. It seemed like somewhere else, like it just couldn't possibly be that bad. But it was, it was really, really bad. And one of the things that I feel like it's important to really note, because this was lost in a lot of the coverage, is that a lot of the areas that were flooded were not in the floodplain, and they have not historically flooded. Because I saw a lot of people like, well, why do they live there? Because it's never been flooded before. That's why they live there. So it was just the tragedy and destruction is really hard to express unless you lived it. So immediately, I was so amazed by, as was noted, sort of the grassroots on the ground, people coming together as quickly as possible, just phone calls. And I remember at one point we couldn't find one of our farmers, Missy, and everyone was just, I'm really, really scared. And so in our vendor chat, there were, how can we get up with her? We were making phone calls to people who were posting on Facebook that they had boats and that they were going out to send them names and pictures and addresses and general areas. And so just that level of kind of a frenzy of trying to locate people. And immediately the community moved into action. Schools were transformed into flood relief centers. East Perry Elementary in particular became sort of this hub, especially with us. Our very first, what we first started doing was collecting food from our farmers because of course markets were canceled because of just the, like I said, this frenzy of right now we are in a crisis situation. We're trying to locate people. So any food that was not destroyed in the flood was donated to East Perry Elementary because World Central Kitchen had set up there, as well as Kane Kitchen in Whitesburg. They became food distribution centers, flood relief centers. And World Central Kitchen would begin the process of making and distributing tens of thousands of meals in this time. And so one of the things that I was really impressed with was how World Central Kitchen made use of existing networks. So for example, Save the Children, whom we work with very closely, was very central, fundamental to the distribution of that food. And in that conversation, in working with, it started out with just donating food and trying to get up with people in that process. We were contacted by Lee Initiative, who were partnering with World Central Kitchen. And their initial thought was they wanted to set up these free markets at flood relief centers. However, just the logistics of that were kind of insane. And so you're just like, no, we cannot do this right now. But we really wanted to take advantage of this idea because it was just so unlike anything that any of us had ever really thought about. And so we talked about the possibility of setting up what we call free markets at existing farmers market locations. That made sense. And what really, why that became so important was we realized that our farmers were going to suffer sort of in two ways. Not only had some of them been impacted by flooding, but now they were going to lose income. And so it became this grand idea of like, okay, let's feed our community who is suffering, but let's also ensure that our farmers are going to have some level of income so that they might have the opportunity to rebuild. And so to begin with, World Central Kitchen and Lee Initiative worked with us and Save the Children to pack what we called like pantry restock boxes. So we had our farmers deliver tons of food and we packed 500 boxes with food that would then be distributed by Save the Children in some of the hardest hit locations. So I actually have, I don't know if I have time for it now, but we'll watch a quick moment of it. This is, they came to do a news story. And I was happy about this because it has one of our farmers. And so I'm going to play this for y'all. If it works. Technology hates me. Just heads up on that one. So it might not work.
Don't forget to share your sound first.
Oh, I don't even know how to do that. I guess I should have thought about that, shouldn't
I? Stop sharing and then choose share sound and then share again.
Okay. I think I'm probably just going to move past that because I don't want to take up any more time with me trying to learn how to do this.
Well, we probably could just Google it, right, and find it.
Yeah. I'll drop it in the oh my Lord, what have I done? Well, now I just made a big old mess, y'all.
We're patient.
Thank you.
We all struggle.
It is all good.
Right.
Okay, let me try to go back to this. I'll close that out. Oh, Lordy.
Yeah, the story is just so amazing. And I mean, I know it's not ending either for you guys, not even close to ending.
That's, yeah, well, okay, I'm just gonna reload it and try again. Okay, so let me minimize that. Oh, goodness gracious.
I think it's your farthest tab on the right.
My tab's covered because they're so.
That's okay.
We see it.
Okay. This is what I get for trying to be fancy. See, I can't be fancy. All right, let's just get back to it. All right, so I will just say very quickly, that was Andrew Noyes, who is one of our core farmers at market. And him talking about what this really was, what it meant for him was community. And even though he doesn't live here anymore, how important it was for him to be a part of trying to support his community. And this is a picture of me with Mr. Maggard, who is also one of our really core farmers. And I cannot even tell you when he and when Andrew pulled up, I mean, they just had so much stuff. And they really made that possible. They made the 500 boxes possible. And here's, this should work. This is not me be fancy. This is Jennifer took this video because we were trying to express how chaotic this process was. So hopefully this works. And there's no, there you go. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a little idea of what that was like that day. But again, just it's such an incredible example of how people can come together in a really horrible situation and just create community, grow community. Here's an example. The Lee Initiative World Central Kitchen made us signage to share with the community. And so in this process, let me just get back to my notes here. We realized that, 500 food boxes is not something that we want to do very often, if ever again. So we move forward with having free markets in the 4 FEMA declared counties, Perry, Breathitt, Clay, and Knott. And you'll be hearing from both Breathitt and Knott County representatives next. So the thing that I wanted to talk about and what I hope that you get from their discussion is how each of the counties we were able to make it work for our people, for our little communities, our markets. And I was so amazed at how different each of the strategies were, but they worked. And they worked because we were able to fashion them in a way that really worked. It fit our community. So with our market, one of the things we were able to do was to take advantage of the fact that we already have this little chip system. So our customers, our community are very used to being able to come to market. If they don't have a credit or debit card, or if they don't have cash, they can use their credit or debit card, and we give them poker chips. And then they give the poker chips to the farmers, who are then reimbursed at the end of the market. So everybody was fairly comfortable with this system. And so what we did was to just, transfer this whole idea of the poker chip model onto the free market. And that way we could, my biggest issue in the beginning was to try to slow it down because it was going, we were selling out in 30 minutes. And I also needed to maintain a budget and also ensure that our customers who did not want to use the free market, who wanted to use their, for example, senior nutrition program vouchers, or if you had somebody who was not affected by the flood, who did not want to use that the free market money, but wanted to use their personal money, it allowed them the opportunity to do so. So that was one of the ways that we were able to take this idea and fashion it in such a way that it really worked for our people, our market. So with that said, I'm going to stop talking because I took up too much time with my trying to be fancy. And I'm going to hand that on over to Kelsey, I believe.
Hey everyone, my name is Kelsey Clunan, and I am was the market manager for the Knott County Farmers Market. This was my second year ever running a farmers market. So talk about a roller coaster. First one being COVID, then the next one here having to try and offer a market post-flood. And as Kirsten said, we had a lot of challenges. And I think when we met and we're discussing it, an underlying theme was, and what we always came back to was, it was like trying to, construct an airplane while you were flying. And that just really summed it up, talking about it being a giant experiment and trying to find the ways to make it work for all of our communities, because, Eastern Kentucky is not a monolith. And even those county boundaries, even if, we always want to work across them, they do speak true to how our counties are different in many ways. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. Let me see. Share screen, PowerPoint. Okay, let me get it to the start here. Oh, shoot. Well, I'm going to have it like this so I can look at my notes. I hope that's okay for y'all. Trying to make things. I have a quick question though. Can you only see my PowerPoint and not my Microsoft Word document? Yeah, amazing. Okay, thank you all for working with me. Always adapting. That's what we're having to do. So when Kirsten first told me about the free markets, as she said, it was a really hard time. And I feel like you can only truly understand it if you are in the middle of it. I didn't know how we were going to do it and how our market or our staff or our vendors or our community was going to have the capacity to make it happen. My own community agricultural job at the Heinemann Settlement School had completely transformed into flood relief and a haphazard social worker that I didn't have the training for, to try and help our community, being a part of this group of people who were taking the days hour by hour, trying to help as many people as possible. And farmers market and my community ag work had definitely taken more of a back seat. However, it was very clear that as soon as this initial shock wore off, a ton of work was going to be needed to address the immense loss due to the flood of gardens and home-based pantries. So it was kind of on the back of our mind that something quickly was going to have to be done really soon in order to help people, help our growers and our food producers in the area. So when Kirsten brought up these free markets, I didn't totally understand it. I didn't understand how it was going to work, but I was like, we need this. Yes, we'll find a way to make it happen. I didn't worry about it too much until, the days leading up to it, because we were facing a lot of challenges, as everyone was in the region, but Knott County, in particular, our farmers market, we were devastated. Here is a photo of where we normally have our farmers markets, and that right there, that pavilion, the smaller pavilion in the background, that's where we typically held our biweekly markets. This was after the waters had subsided a little bit. So, at one point it was almost completely covering the pavilion. I am amazed it did not get washed away. In addition to, not having a location to offer these markets, we had lost a lot of our materials. So our market infrastructure was completely, didn't know where it was. Our box trailer floated somewhere. It ended up coming back. The box trailer ended up appearing. And we were able to find and sort of revitalize some of our materials that we needed. But, we were basically working in a situation where we didn't have our normal market infrastructure. So there was location, our lack of supplies, and also capacity. I already talked about myself, like how my capacity was limited because my job was flood relief. Our vendors, a lot of our vendors, they lost they not only lost their gardens, but they lost their homes. So they were focusing on recovery and rebuilding. And our community too, I didn't know if our community was going to have capacity to even attend a market, to have transport to get to our wherever we were going to hold our market. So we were dealing with very limited capacity in our own community for, anything other than just trying to get through the day. We also thinking, on a normal day, does our market even have capacity for this? We are a smaller market. In the past few years that I've been there, we've had a core group of 3 vendors. We were up to 5 this year. So our normal market team is our vendors, Chad Conway, our extension A&R agent, who I work very closely with. He actually started the Knott County Farmers Market, and sometimes our market board committee members whenever they can participate. So, we're already working with a small team. And like I said, limited capacity because of dealing with everything that's going on. Also thinking about those free markets, our Knott County Farmers Market very much exists thanks to the food initiative programs, the food incentive programs that we're able to offer. We often kind of joke, but are also very serious that the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program is the only reason that our market is able to exist. You know, it's what funds our market. Our market is very much, we are in a very rural area, very low local food access for purchase. And we serve an elderly community, and large amount of that elderly community in particular receives a limited income. In the entire Knott County, a lot of our residents are under the poverty level and receive a limited income. So our market is really an awesome hub of these food incentive programs where folks can access these different incentive programs and are able to support our local food producers at our market. But if we offer these free markets, that then would affect our food incentive redemption numbers, and we already receive such a limited number. What's going to happen next year? If our numbers go down, like, are we going to even receive enough vouchers to support our community? Then the biggest concern was that out of our 5 regular season vendors who sell what they grow, 3 completely lost their gardens. And we're also focusing on, rebuilding their homes, rebuilding their lives. How in the world we're going to be able to produce these markets? Slowly, or actually pretty quickly, if I think back to it, things started to fall into place. The extension office, they ended up later on putting up a big tent that we were able to use there in their parking lot. We were able to move the market to an extension office, and then these partnerships started really coming into play. Folks who I knew and had kind of worked with, kind of corresponded with throughout our work together, they showed up in full force for us. So Story Sloan from Grow Appalachia, you can see her here. This is the Grow Appalachia van that she helped to transport some produce with. She contacted me about the Farmer Produce Exchange Network and quickly had a very, very early donation from Uncle Jack's Farm in Campton that we were able to offer at our first market. Margie Stelter from Community Farm Alliance, who again, I'd never met, had emailed with her some. She emailed me the day before market, said, "Do you need help? I'll be there at 11 and I can bring pop-up tents." So it was just this incredible, people reaching out. And, when you're in shock and trying to deal with mass community trauma and your own, just trying to take care of yourself and people around you, it's hard you don't have brain space for logistics. Also, though, locally, Kirsten and Graham from Perry County Farmers Market, from Breathitt County Farmers Market, I reached out to them and they helped me to connect with their resale vendors who might be interested in supporting our free market. And luckily, 2 who regularly sell at the Perry County Market in particular were able to participate in our first free market. So things were coming together. It was happening. Talking about, though, how we made it work for Knott County in particular. So again, we had to think about our limited capacity. We had to think about our typically small, we have a strong regular community base, but it's all food incentive programs. So, and our vendors and our staff and our community are all working with limited capacity. So in order to, accommodate all of this, we decided to make it all free, which made it easier on our vendors who could just give produce to customers rather than having to deal with tenders, something that just made it kind of a little bit easier for our vendors during the process. And also making it free kind of helped. It kind of felt good to give that kind of flood relief with no constraints or qualifiers that was able to go directly to households. Because we were kind of something that was coming up a lot in the flood relief and in the aid that we were seeing in our community. Qualifiers for people to access aid. And I think it felt really good and important to just be like, here, you need this, take it. Like, we don't need, there's no requirements, there's no prerequisites. Here is free food. Now, logistically, though, how to make it as smooth as possible, I give huge thanks and props to Margie and her incredible logistical farmers market prowess. I learned so much from working alongside her, and she was able to find ways for crowd control. We set up the tents to do kind of like this help with the flow, and we did some barriers. She put up tape in this very beautifully architecturally sound way that just helped folks to make it through smoothly and quickly. We also ended up we went all out. We did numbered line tickets that we handed out to volunteers, handed out to folks whenever they entered the extension office parking lot, so people knew what time they were coming in and they knew their place in line. And I think that also helped to make it move slower. Like as Kirsten was saying, it was important to help try and find ways to make it move slower. And that also made things less stressful for our vendors. We also bagged up produce. That helped quite a bit, bagging things up beforehand, but it was a huge, huge job doing that. And we probably sponsored Ziploc for the entire year, I feel like, with all the bags that we used. But it made it easier for our vendors, and that was really, really important to us. And that was only possible thanks to this huge group of volunteers that I feel like just appeared whenever we started offering these free markets. It was all the staff from CFA that showed up multiple times for us, helping with transporting produce, helping with taking photos, videos, helping with crowd control, logistics. They brought their friends who volunteered. People who were doing flood relief volunteering in the area showed up to help us. Even our customers, our regulars who love to arrive an hour and a half before market starts, they very hopefully happily jumped in and helped out to get the market started. So it was incredible. And I ended up meeting a lot of people who became a part of this, mutual aid and community-based network that was just there to make sure that people got the help that they needed and got the food that they needed. And also hugely only possible because of our Knott County Farmers Market vendors. So our first market, it was pretty chaotic. It was a huge learning experience, but I think it showed our vendors what was possible with these free markets. And that next market, where you're going to hear from James and Connie Holiday, they just dove into this unfamiliar resale market. They just dove into it head first, and they were able to supply our free markets with tons and tons of food. Our first market, we didn't have enough, and we ended up having to turn some people away, but in the subsequent markets, we were able to serve up to 130 households. We didn't turn anyone else away because of the awesome work that the Holidays and our other vendors who lost their gardens but jumped into this resale effort, were able to provide for our markets. So it was just really, really beautiful. And so it happened. We did it. It had a huge positive effect on our community. It became a really great space to gather in a time when people didn't have a place to gather. It became again, handed out up to between 80 and 130 households every market. And it brought together a lot of people in the community. It encouraged folks who were food producers, but never really wanted to sell at the market, because I think that they really came to love the community and the support and encouragement that we were able to provide at market. Another, and probably the biggest and the most lasting consequence of these free markets, is the incredible farmer-to-farmer mutual aid network that supplied donations from farmers all over Kentucky, down to Western North Carolina and throughout a couple places in Ohio. So these farms and produce auctions and gardeners and farmers who wanted to help and support this effort and ended up donating a ton of produce that we were able to give to our vendors who had lost their gardens so that they were able to make some profit, and also to supplement what we're able to hand out for free. And thanks to this incredible network, you can see here, I think this was one of our last markets, and we had a crew of like 25 people. This was huge. This has never happened for a market before. The way people came together was just absolutely amazing. And this is all of the folks who participated and donated and provided reduced resale for our vendors so that these markets could happen. And what ended up happening from this was the market also being a very central place to assess the needs of our local gardeners and home-based and homesteaders who had lost stuff in the flood and had lost their food supply, had lost what they were going to be putting up for winter. So I created a survey for both lost gardens and lost home-based pantries, collected a lot of information and put it all on a spreadsheet, and worked really closely with Margie and Story and Oak, Organic Association Kentucky, and South Farm and Grow Appalachia and CFA and North Fork to get these donations from farmers, transport them, store them, and then distribute them to the folks who had done the surveys. So we ended up handing out, I know that there was one donation of like 2,000 pounds from the Chester Hill produce auction in Ohio. That was distributed in like 2 days to Knott County residents and some Letcher County residents. This here was our tater truck during one of our markets. Janie from CFA brought this down, and these were some apples from Haney Orchards that we ended up donating to the Dobsons, who lost their 100-year-old apple tree. So they were able to get some apples. And then this is just some more of the produce that was donated to folks who filled out that assessment at the farmers market, growers that we knew in the area. So the farmers market became a way for us to find ways to assess the needs and fill those needs of our local food producers. And currently that network is hoping to turn into an East Kentucky canning coalition. So that has begun because, we're getting towards winter, losing produce, fresh produce. So we're hoping, and we've already got some donations from this Amazon wish list that Story also created. So we're hoping that this canning network will be something that continues onward strongly into the future and is a way for us to address local food access needs and continue to address the needs of our farmers who, this recovery is going to be a very, very long time. It's going to be a very long recovery. So we're hoping that this can contribute in some positive ways. So I want to turn it over to James and Connie Holiday from Big Branch Farms. They were vendors for the first time at the farmers market this year, longtime participants in our home-based garden programs at the Hyndman Settlement School. And I would love for you all to hear their story and hear their experience.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm James Holiday, along with my wife Connie. We're owners of Big Branch Farms. This was my family's farm. My dad bought in the 1940s. We've always gardened, and after I retired, we decided to try to enter the farmers market. So, of course, on July 28th, we had historic flooding. We got about 12 inches of rain in 3 hours. And by that, we lost all of our crops, part of a barn, a lot of topsoil. And going through all of this, I seen advertised the farmers market, free farmers market giveaway. So I decided I would go see if I could help. I went up along, and most of the other vendors showed up, and we give away the first time, the produce, the first market. Well, between the first and second market, Kelsey got talking, me and her in a discussion. She said, "Why can't we do this?" I said, "Okay, I'm willing to try." So I went to our local Farm Bureau's roadside market, which was the Golden Apple here in Knott County. And I walked in, I talked to them, I explained what we were doing. I told them that we needed to buy the stuff at a reduced price to where we could buy a lot to give away, and that we were going to give it to anyone in the community that needed it. So they agreed. Well, then I had about 8 hours to decide what I was going to get for resale. Well, myself and my wife, Connie, we sat down, we figured it out, and I called it in. Then on Monday at about 12 o'clock, Miss Kelsey called me and said, "James, we've got one vendor that's not going to have anything, and I'm afraid we're not going to have any produce." So I run back to the Golden Apple. I explained to them again what's going on, and they agreed to help me again. So I made 2 truckloads of food.
Son-in-law.
And my son-in-law also bought from them and sold. But anyway, what I tried to do was to stay local And if I couldn't, and when we buy it, buying retail, I tried to stay local. If I couldn't stay local, I tried to stay in the surrounding counties. And that way we would be helping our local produce vendors and whatever out. So in doing this, we connected with a lot of people. As Kelsey said, we give 100 to 130 bags. And what I'm calling a bag, we had a line, we bagged all the produce up, and the veggies and the fruit. People come through and we give each one of them a bag. And they had a pretty good bag by the time they got through the line if they took everything we had. And we connected with a lot of people really thanking us for helping them where they lost their gardens and crops. And I used the profit off of this to help replace stuff that I lost, like part of a barn, my gardening supplies. I lost all my trellises. I didn't really lose any tools other than one hoe, but I'm using that money to a good cause by helping myself back. And in doing this, the impact on our farmers market, it brought out a lot of people. People got to see what our farmers market is that had never been to the farmers market. And a lot of people, when they come through, said, we'd heard of it, but we didn't know what you offered. And then the farmers market, helped a lot of people that lost their garden crops. And that was the big thing. It was very, very satisfying to give to people that I know personally that had lost everything. A lot of them even their homes. And we couldn't have done this without our volunteers. I can't say enough about our volunteers, Harold Bryant, the Maggard ladies, Jen Stamper and CJ Jones, Kathy, and there's many others. I can't remember them all, but when you're trying to bag up probably 3 or 4 tons of produce in about 2 hours for 5 or 6 people, that's a job. And we grew a lot of friendship among the volunteers and also amongst our vendors, because the other vendors, it got to the point there at the end, we were telling each other where they could go buy what for what price that would help them increase their profit margins a little bit. And I can't say enough, Margie from CFA, she really helped me. She come and asked me, would I be interested in doing the resale from some areas like Root Bound Farms, and there was another one, I can't think of the name, and I don't mean to slight them, but she put me in contact with these farmers, and they provided the transport for the produce that I could not have went and got, and that made a big difference. I can't say enough how much I appreciate Margie. And with that, that's pretty much all I've got. If y'all have some questions, I'll try my best to answer.
Thank you so much, James. I just wanted to point out really quick what James was saying about, and I love this about what they were doing, is that they were, keeping it local, buying from Golden Apple. And Kirsten brought up a really good point about, and Jennifer, when we were having a discussion about still trying to have a positive impact on Kentucky agriculture. And the holidays and Harold and Josh Bryant and all of the donations from farmers throughout Kentucky really, really made a huge impact. And I'm really proud of the work that we did and that we all did. So I think, Jennifer, I'm going to hand it back to you to hand it back to the next person.
Okay, thank you. Oh my gosh, my heart is so full. It really is. I'm going to turn it over to Reed. Reed Graham is the A&R agent in Breathitt County and is intimately involved with the Breathitt County Farmers Market. And he can share what happened in Breathitt County.
Thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. Can you all see my screen yet?
No,
Yes.
oh, there it is. There it is.
Fine. Right. I appreciate the introduction, Jennifer. I think I wouldn't be doing this presentation in justice if I didn't thank Jennifer Weber for the invitation and for all the help and all the community farm lines folks. There's no way any of this would have been possible, in my opinion, without them. So I just wanted to give you all a little bit of history about the Breathitt County Farmers Market. I'm Reed Graham. I'm the Agriculture Natural Resource Agent. It's kind of weird, y'all probably hearing from me today. Our market manager, he wasn't able to join us, and I was filling out a form the other day, and it asked me the role I had at the market, and I was just, I'm just the market advisor, I guess you could say. So I work with the farmers market every day, one of the biggest supporters of the market here in the county. But that's why I'm doing this presentation today for you. The Breathitt County Farmers Market, it's been an awesome place. Since I started here at the Extension Office, it's done nothing but grow. I think we could attribute a lot of that to programs, the Senior Farmers Market vouchers, the Kentucky Double Dollars, the Market Manager cost share. We've had a lot of help to get to where we are today. When I started here, we went from 4 to 5 vendors. Now we had 20 vendors this year, 20 farmers selling at our farmers market. So it's the little blue pavilion there at the top. It's hard to tell from that picture, but it's kind of like a normal day at the farmer's market. Got some farmers, vehicles. That was probably right when we opened. One day I went out there and shot a picture. We went last year. We had the best year on record at the farmer's market here in Breathitt County. We had let's see, we had 7,500 visitors, and we had 135,000 in reported sales. So our actual sales, there's no telling where we were at in sales, but this is kind of what it looked like a lot of days. There'd be, people hanging out. You didn't have to wait in line a lot to pick up produce, but still 135,000 in reported sales in a year in a county like ours it's made a huge impact in our community to our farmers. So here's what it looked like after we started the free market. And full disclosure, when we put out that we were going to have a free market here in Breathitt County, it went really quick. Well, I wasn't even 100% sure that people were ready for this. Like, we hadn't had a lot of calls about things like when's the farmers market open? The market was closed for one day after the flood because there was mud in the pavilion. It actually got that high, but after the flood, we were open, but it was super slow. And I should back up for a second. Breathitt County was impacted a little bit differently than the other counties that were involved in this. The southern part of Breathitt County, it got annihilated. I mean, worst flood in history. The northern part of the county, it wasn't that bad. I mean, most of the farmers in the northern part of Breathitt County didn't have their fields impacted hardly at all, or if they did, it was very minimal, and some of them are on hills. So they were taking back a lot of produce when they were coming to the market. They didn't have a sale for it. Their customer counts went from 150 customers a day down to 20 to 30 customers a day. So it was going really badly when Jennifer and I talked about this idea. So here's what it was like on the first day we had the free market. And like I said, I was afraid we wouldn't have anybody there. So I think it's safe to say the word is out about the free farmers market today. We'll open at 3. It's 2:57. So, did you all hear my audio? Okay. It went like extremely well. Like I said, I didn't know if anybody was gonna be there, and it was so full of people. And our market has set hours, and that's been really important to the farmers market board here, is that we keep to those hours. So that day our market opened at 3 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, our market manager, he said, all right, it's time, it's time, we're open. So people started getting stuff. And you all, there wasn't anybody that wasn't pleased. It was, just people were able to take what they needed. I don't feel like it was abused. The farmers, guess it was Kirsten that sent us a message that said, you might want to encourage the farmers to have some of their stuff bagged up because it'll go pretty quick. They won't have time to bag it. So we told them that, and they did. And it just was, we were able to help so many people. We were able to help over 100 households every market day. We had 8 markets that we did this. One last thing I think I should mention with the way in Breathitt County is we do allow reselling. That's a very common thing for our county market. We did limit the people who resold to $750 per market. And that's kind of going back to what Kirsten said about making the funds go for the full 8 weeks, because we knew we wanted to do it for 8 weeks. So we had that in mind. And we had 2 to 3 that we knew we were going to probably resell. So we limited that. And then local growers that didn't have impacted fields, we got a few growers in other counties that weren't impacted by the flooding as well. They could bring all they wanted. Some of those farmers had the best days with totally locally grown items. They had the best days they'd ever had at a farmer's market anywhere, due to the work from the Community Farm Alliance and the Lee Initiative giving us this donation. So I can't thank you all enough for inviting me on here, and definitely for providing the free markets for folks in our community and farmers in our community.
Thank you, Reed. I also want to say, y'all, one of the things that you did is you also made certain to include your farmers that had been so heavily impacted and were not able to sell at your market in your budget. Can you talk a little bit about how you did that?
Yeah, that's true. We had out of 20 farmers, we had 5 farmers that completely lost their whole gardens. They had 0 left to sell. They had 0 initiative because they had so much damage at home. They had 0 initiative to come back to the market. Like, they were dealing with so much stuff. So we filled them out an invoice based on their past sales at the market, and we used a ratio, so everybody got a different amount. Kind of the base was $250, so everybody got a minimum of $250, and then based on their sales leading up to the flood, adjusted that. So we did provide some funds for the folks that weren't able to resell or didn't have any interest in reselling, or just kind of lost everything and wasn't able to come back. So that's a good point, Jennifer. I forgot to mention that. But so every farmer at the farmers market here in Breathitt County got to take part in the free market program provided by Lee Initiative, and we really, really appreciate all that.
One of the other things that strikes me, I was at one of your free markets, and one of your vendors, Jeff Howard, who grows fabulous lettuce, but knows that the butter crunch isn't very popular in Breathitt County, was giving, had it available at the free markets and was thinking of it as free sampling for his farm, so that when the market went back, folks would know how fabulous his butter crunch lettuce is, and he would have sales. So I hope that worked out for him, because his butter crunch is fabulous.
He definitely did. And I mean, yeah, you keep adding on. I could add on stuff forever. I didn't know if we were tight on time, but that definitely.
We've got about 5 minutes. Yeah,
definitely
go ahead.
opened the door for him. Which also opened another door with the school here in the county. Like, one of the school administrators came by. They saw his lettuce, got hooked up with that. So now he's providing lettuce to one of our schools. And it was probably all due to the fact that, had the free market. It was helping out people. And like you said, getting samples of some of this stuff into people's hands. We've got a lot of customers that I feel like will be repeat customers now that we've never had before. Some of the faces I saw, and I go out there all the time, I hadn't saw those faces before, so I think we'll get a lot of customers out of this in the coming years. I think that's the hope anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that is a fabulous unanticipated consequence of the free markets is that it really has been a springboard to other initiatives that will support local food and local agriculture in Eastern Kentucky. So we have about 4 minutes. I'm wondering if anyone has any questions for Kirsten, Kelsey, Reed, James, or Connie. And while we're giving folks an opportunity to maybe think of a question, are there any, given your experience with the free markets this past year and some of the outgrowth we've already seen, what are some of the things you anticipate for next year happening with your markets that might be different than this year? Or that you would hope to see in Knott County, Kelsey, since you'll be over in Cowan?
I think I would really hope to see, I think the community that we grew is like really infectious in the best way. Like it drew in a lot of folks, and a lot of people who now love our market and our vendors. And I just want people to know more about our market and be able to participate more. So I hope that it grows in number of vendors, number of people, numbers of volunteers. And I'm wondering if, and James might be able to speak more about this, but, you know, we really only have maybe one vendor who does resale at our market. So maybe, and it's all, you know, other gardeners are selling the stuff that they grow. So maybe seeing more resale in the future in order to extend and amplify our markets.
Yes, we just had one vendor that done resale, Kelsey. That was our old buddy Junior.
Yes, James, are y'all going to do resale next year? What do you think?
Well, we're going to look at it. It'd be kind of hard for us if we have to stay within our guidelines. I think, what was it, 60 miles area of Hindman. It'd be kind of hard to get stuff early to resell.
Yeah, there are certain restrictions, but I'll be here to help with that. And the new market manager will as well. And of course, CFA. So we'll make it happen.
We'll try. Yeah, we're planning on it. We've been discussing it, Connie and myself.
One of the things that I really, well, go on.
No, go ahead. I was going to say, it looks like you were going to say something. So
it's just the regional, like the cooperation. It's just unbelievable. And I think that moving forward, it's like, I feel like we have, like I was saying, we have like sister markets now. And I know that I can call on Reed or I can call on Kelsey, and you know, and then CFA is like this like really awesome glue that holds everybody together. And so it just feels really hopeful. And when you're dealing with something that terrible, I just feel so thankful that it's allowed us to find each other. Because I feel like we're all, like, it really does feel like we're all in it together, and that moving forward, we're going to have each other. It, you know, and it took this terrible disaster, but now we know, like, we're going to be okay, and we have each other. So that's all I was going to say.
No, that's beautiful. And that actually speaks to a question that Martin asked about. It really seems like human capital is key to resiliency, and how we keep that structure, maintain that structure for the next disaster. And so I don't know if any of y'all have any ideas about that. I also want to say that the other sister market is the city of Whitesburg, Letcher County. And our dear friend Louise, their market manager, is doing her civic duty and jury duty this morning. She was not able to join us, but we will hear from Val Horn on our next panel. So, any thoughts on how to maintain that structure for the next disaster? That's a huge question.
I think it really starts with people. And I think that it starts with, like you were saying, it's relationships. And you can't just work within a single organization. And I think that moving forward in terms of resiliency and like having, it's like the fact that I really, really care for my like other market managers, my market families, my like everybody else that's in like part of this, because through this, we have been holding on to each other. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I trust them and I care for them. And I don't think that you can fake that. And I don't think that you like in terms of resilience, and that's not an easy thing to do, to get to a point where you have friendships and relationships with these people. But I think that's what it takes, because you're going to show up for them because you care about them.
And if I could just add to that, I think just what Kirsten is saying, and then in order to maintain this structure, it needs to become the norm, right? Like this collaboration, this partnership needs to be what we're doing, on a normal market season, normal year, single day. And that is the expectation, so that when, you know, something this big and this disastrous does hit, we're ready for it. Just because mutual aid is what we do every day.
Absolutely. It's part of Eastern Kentucky.
And having CFA helps. A lot.
That made Martin happy. Thank you all so very much. Yeah, like my heart is just bursting at this point with love for y'all and for what has happened in the aftermath of the flood. And with that, I'm going to turn it back. I'm going to turn it to Kayla for our next panel. So thank you all.
Thank y'all so much. That was a great panel. So I'm Kayla Nichols. I'm with the Appalachian RC&D Council, and I'm going to be starting us off in this food access programs panel. I'm going to start by talking about what we're doing at ARCD, and then I'll pass it over to our friends in Eastern Kentucky, Val Horn and Jessica Hodges, to talk about their work. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. Okay, y'all seeing that? Okay. Okay, so like I said, I'm Kayla Nichols. I'm the Marketing and Communications Director for the Appalachian Resource Conservation and Development Council. We're based in Johnson City, Tennessee, and I'm also the Project Director for our Northeast Tennessee Food Systems Partnership. And that is focused on improving our local food system. So I'm going to talk about our work in the local food system and in improving food access in the region that we serve. And our region is the 8 counties of Northeast Tennessee. So Appalachian RC&D's mission is to conserve natural resources and improve rural economies through community leadership and enhanced educational opportunities. And so that's a really broad mission, and it encompasses a lot of diverse work. We group our work into 3 main buckets: conservation, beginning farmer support, and food justice. I'll be talking about our food justice work, and then my coworker Rosie is going to jump on later in a later panel to talk about our backyard gardening program, which is part of our beginning farmer gardener bucket. So ARCD has been around for 28 years. Like the other RC&D councils, we were initially funded through the USDA, but we were defunded after the 2008 Farm Bill. So now we rely on various grant programs and internal fundraising to support our different areas of work. So our food access program is mainly the Appalachian Pharmacy. So Appalachian Pharmacy is a series of 3 sister programs focused on reducing food insecurity in Northeast Tennessee and improving health outcomes by making fresh local produce more accessible and incentivizing physical activity and farmers market purchases. So we relaunched Appalachian Pharmacy this year. We ran pilot programs for both pharmacy and pharmacy fit a number of years ago through the Finney program. But then thanks to grant funds, we were able to relaunch that program this year in a more cohesive and kind of more impactful way. So farmers markets participating, sorry, let me start over. So Pharmacy Fit is the first program. That's the first one that we launched this year. And participants walk 1 mile, and then they can get between $3 and $5 in tokens for produce. And the variance in that is just based on each different farmers markets. Some of them have additional funding and they're able to support a higher incentive. $3 is the base that ARCD is able to support. But for example, our Jonesboro market received additional funding from TVA. And so they were able to increase their incentive amount to $5. So that program is free and open to all. Producers accept tokens and are then reimbursed by the markets, which are then reimbursed by Appalachian RC&D. So that program is funded this season first by Eastman, which is a local employer in our region, and then by the Project Diabetes program at the Tennessee Department of Health. So from May to October of this year, we had 1,500 participants. So we were very happy with the first season of Pharmacy Fit. It was a big success from the farmers market point of view. Everyone said that they really enjoyed having it. And so we hope to be able to expand it next year and include more markets. We're hoping to get at least one market in each county. The next program is Build It Up Bucks, which is a program that gives incentives to students who are participating in a school garden at Fall Branch School, one of our local K-8 schools. So we were able to install a school garden at that school, and then all of the students who participate in that program are then sent home with $5 vouchers, and I believe it's one voucher each week. So they can take those vouchers home to their parents, and then the parents can go with them to the farmers market. They can turn those vouchers in and redeem them for fresh produce at the Jonesboro Farmers Market. So this year we distributed $8,000 in the vouchers, and we are collecting the data on to see how much of those vouchers were actually redeemed. So we hope to have all of that data rounded up by the end of this year. And that program is also funded by the Project Diabetes through the Tennessee Department of Health. And then our final program in this sister program is the pharmacy. And so that is going to be launching in the spring of 2023. And so we have partnerships established with local clinics and primary care facilities. It's funded by GusNIP, and the providers will write prescriptions for fruits and vegetables, and then the prescriptions will double as vouchers for free produce at the participating markets. And we have 3 markets that are going to be participating in that program. So that's our Appalachian Pharmacy. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is just briefly, also related to our food access work, we are launching a food policy council for Northeast Tennessee. So this was started under a grant by the TDA. They funded the planning portion for this, and our inaugural meeting will be held in November. And so the goals of the project are to increase local public investment in the food system. We are engaging business, political, and community leaders as advocates to increase public investment in the food system. And then we hope to increase access to the local food system by providing more soft infrastructure improvements and advocacy for hard infrastructure. So one of the things we're talking about with that is to create a virtual food hub where farmers and consumers can kind of, connect to get the produce where it needs to go. And then the last goal is to increase consumption of local food. And by doing that, or to achieve that goal, we will promote local farmers markets under a regional brand and provide training and technical assistance to farmers to diversify their businesses and improve their efficiency and reach. And like I said, this was funded this year by the TDA, and then we will be funding the continuation of the Food Policy Council between 2023 and 2025 by a USDA RFSP grant. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to pass it to Val Horn, who's going to talk about their pharmacy program and Kentucky Double Dollars.
Okay, good morning. Can we see a screen?
Yes,
Very good, thank you. A pleasure to be here. Happy to be a part of the Canned Food Summit and to be in company with names whose work I admire and who have been so helpful in work that has happened here, Whitesburg, Letcher County, and hopefully beyond. Martin, I heard your affirming, yes, you can hear, so definitely appreciate the work of Community Farm Alliance and credit them for being the beginning of the work that has happened here in Letcher County. So, and Ken, we appreciate you for some investments in our food work too, so good to be here. And yes, I am Valerie Horn, part of a team, great team of workers here who are committed to growing a stronger and healthier community with food as a common denominator of that. And some of the things I'm involved with are the Whitesburg Farmers Market. I'm the director at Cowan Community Center, which is host for our Grow Appalachia program. I also work with Kane Kitchen, Community Agriculture Nutritional Enterprises, board member with Apple Shop and CFA. But again, all of these are pieces, organizations, and people that are working together to grow that healthier community, both physically and financially. Where we are now, probably not that different from where many of you are and rest. Again, photo courtesy of Martin Richards on a trip here to Whitesburg. But we still lag behind the population and a lot of the country as far as our health and our education and our wellness. We've got some wonderful traits, but there are a lot of struggles here that happen with poverty and food insecurity and our health and wellness being at the core of all of that. So that's a motivator for the community and the work that is here, and especially in regards to children and youth and what options are available for them. As far as our health goes, almost 1 in 3 have diabetes. We have a higher obesity rate than the rest of Kentucky, which also is Kentucky is usually ahead of the country. So there are struggles that are related to our health that are directly related or can at least be influenced by the foods and the food choices that we have and that we have available. So those are driving forces, and those are also is leverage and opportunities to partner with others who have those goals and missions to improve that and to make that better. It's also a unifying, these are unifying concepts, beliefs for our community. Here it's easy to be divided, polarized, and to have teams, but it is really hard to find people who are against healthy eating, against farmers, and against children having better, at least who are willing to speak out about it and say that these efforts are not good. So it's a way that pulls our community together in ways that other efforts did not. I just share this as again, a motivating factor is the life expectancy. A lot of times I would travel to Berea, Lexington, or other places, and on the way home, you can literally, your lifespan gets shorter in just that a length of time and amount of time that the just living 2 hours away from here, your life expectancy is greater and higher. So that matters a lot now at this age. But again, I do believe most of the work is for a better future and having things be better down the road for children and grandchildren. So as I said before, appreciate the benefits that working with CFA came. I was working with a UK research-based, community-based participatory research project, Apple Tree, Appalachians Together, Restoring the Eating Environment. And with that came opportunities to connect with community and grow our farmers market and efforts there. One of our board members was Mike Caudle with MCHC. And our community does not have a wealth of investors and partners. So they're the first that we look to for support. And initially we did look to them to help with our farmers market, as simple as t-shirts. And finally, heard some work about other veggie prescription programs happening in other places, other parts of the country. So shared that idea with Martin, CFA, and then took the proposal to MCHC pharmacy program. We started really small. Just from initial conversation, we got a commitment for about $5,000 to give this a try, that we'd work with about 20 families, $20 a week, and would be distributing. The doctors, the primary caregivers would be the front line and the first line for making these prescriptions available to community. And as it turned out, there was a rush on those prescriptions. The prescriptions doctors passed them out very freely. And within a week or two, we had way too many patients than the money could afford. So we got a call and an increase that year that MCHC's board had agreed to expand that. We had support from WellCare, CFA, most all of the Kentucky insurance companies wanted to be a part of this pilot program when we began that. You can see CFA, WellCare, in fact, Passport joined on. We made even new prescriptions to include them in that work. Since then, it's changed as far as sponsors and funding for that, but the concept remains the same. If you have a diet-related health issue, then the primary care provider at MCHC will offer a prescription that can go to the City of Whitesburg Farmers Market or Leatherwood Farmers Market. At this time, we have about 200 patients each week who come to the Whitesburg Farmers Market at $35 per patient. So, that's a big win for everybody. It's if everybody showed up, that's $7,000 that can walk in to the market and goes to farmers. It makes for a very secure feeling for farmers to plant, grow, and bring to the market. The things that we need to do as a market is, or the MCHC and the healthcare provider does, is they communicate with us. We meet routinely. From these meetings, even came kitchen out of that, is how do we expand food access and health care beyond the farmers market and that growing season. So those conversations continue 7 or 8 years later on a weekly, bi-weekly basis. MCHC, they identify and recruit the patients using their scale. So we don't see any identifying data, but they use a sliding scale for some, and then health requirements to do that. They capture pre and post health measures, and they take care of the funding. And in the most recent years, I'm going to say the most recent 5 years, that's gone with a USDA GUSNIP proposal. And so that's where the funding has come from that. They renew prescriptions weekly. They monitor the patient redemption. If someone's not coming, they check in with them, and they reimburse the market weekly with funds from that. What our market roles are is that we build a relationship with the medical care provider, understand their goals. When you're in a relationship with someone, we all know, but it's important to figure out what matters to them and be sure and meet that also. Get grower support. We have to remind and make sure our farmers and growers understand, yes, it is a program that they benefit from, that supports farmers, that creates a huge benefit to our market, but that is one piece of the relationship. Customers have to have food that they want. It has to be well done, and it has to be fairly priced. So there's continued monitoring and assessment and checks of that. And we have to support the growers, help them be able to meet those supply demands. Grow Appalachia has been a support for that, to be able to see that we had enough produce there. Picture you see on the left is pretty traditional for a market morning, and beginning with about that many people there. We need to meet special needs. Accessibility, as simple as carrying things to the car or meeting people at the car. Reimburse growers in a timely manner. Maintain financial records to be able to demonstrate what is happening with the funds at any point. And manage the demand and relationships. You see one of our market managers at one time, Louise's husband, Jim, is talking with a patient there. In the beginning, there was one year Jim and I had to hold a rope and to sort of hold people back from the beginning of the market. But as our supply increased and the anxiety decreased about they'll run out, that initial rush slowed down to a manageable spot. So the pharmacy program works with the prescription that they get in their clinic. And we say this is bringing healthcare outside the exam room, outside the PHARMACY prescription pharmacy, but to other health benefits. They get the prescription, they bring to our market table, we give them market money, and then they purchase fresh fruits and vegetables. At the end of the day, there's a checkout sheet that the growers submit there, all of their excess for that. And we pay within a day or two, get that check written back out. We used to do it on the day of market and getting check signatures. And as the program grew, we had to stop that. So just another picture of our market, our farmers market logo, John Haywood. If you see the coal tipple in the back, and some of our farmers actually used wood from their coal tipple to build barns and to build raised beds. So this has been a transition for some in our community, and a way to look at different ways for income here, as well as the health benefits to community. This is a chart that shows our sales up to at least 2020. I don't know why I'm so late there with it. Maybe it's an old slide, but I know the sales for this year were really close to Breathitt County's, about 120,000 in food access programs that we had included. And that's the pharmacy program. We've had a walking program also, the double dollars. Double dollars means so much to our community and our members who come here. And we are so grateful to have been a part of that over these years, that it makes what might otherwise might not be fully worth the effort a possibility to come. SNAP continues to be a part of our community. Although it's small, it is significant to the people who are here and who use that. Senior and WIC continues to grow also. 21 and 22 would both have higher sales. So these incentive programs represent a lot of the dollars at the farmers market. Don't know if I can share this or not, but this is a market opening. And like I said, Jim and I had shared, held a rope at times to hold people back till the 9 a.m. start. A lot of these people are still with the pharmacy program. There's not a time limit on it. They get food for themselves, for their families. They are able to can and preserve food at times, can have meals there on site, but we're very proud that the pharmacy program has been here and been a part of the community. This was 2020. We did it in a pickup and drop off manner. So farmers would bring in their produce, we would bag it up, and there'd be a drive-through at Kane Kitchen. There are some advantages to doing it this way. I could see some markets might opt to do a pharmacy program that was this way. We try to keep ours open that I think the farmers enjoy, the customers enjoy the opportunity to connect with farmers and growers. There's talk of recipes, there's more relationship building. Most of the people who come to the farmers market stay at least an hour. So this makes it a more personal and more social experience. But in 2020, this got the food in their cars and in their house and to the families. We had the walking program and offered a $10 voucher also to bring people to use the Tanglewood walking trail, and saw significant health improvements in that in 5 areas with that, decreased blood pressure, some different levels. You can read those here, HDL cholesterol, and that was with a UK research project. Love that. We were not able to fund it this year, but we think it's just another win when you can add physical activity to a food nutrition program. This is I'll not play it, but this is a good story. This was a community leader of the walking program on Apple Shop, WMMT, who did a story about that and how it helped him, and his advice to community to just walk if you're feeling bad, and you'll be surprised, you'll feel better. Okay, so this is more. The market turns into a place of health and wellness, and other community programs can come by and it's connect there with that. This was a diabetes wellness program. I think this effort began with the summer food service program, which continues. We're in about our 8th year of that, where youth 18 and under eat free at the market. That began as a partnership with the Letcher County school systems. I can see where these conversations and things happened, and I hope some of you can consider this, but this was with another CFA East Kentucky Regional Food Meeting, and connected us with the right people with the USDA program to get that to happen here. So we still do that. We purchase local food from growers. Smoothie is the trademark, with fruits, yogurt, local honey, and the breakfast wrap. Those are prepared on site and given out to youth 18 and under, who are free and very low price for adults. The summer food program in 2020 expanded significantly. I'm not going to share that, but that was In 2020, we did 750,000 meals with waivers, and we're able to send packages home with that, with families from 8 counties. So the small things can happen and just put you in a place ready to do, to be prepared to do the bigger things. I know this was a help to our community in 2020. Cowan partners with all of this work with the Fresh Foods. It's host to the Grow Appalachia program. Kids on the Creek, we're working for educational programs and opportunities for them. We tie it to our music school, and Grow Appalachia provides meals for that. Levitt Amp happens 10 weeks during the summer, a free music series. Berea and Middlesboro in Kentucky have one, along with about 12 other cities across the country. It's unique that Kentucky has 3, but our farmers market connects with Levitt Amp. They set up on, we close the road. Our city is a partner, close the road, set up that day, and have free live music, again, about accessibility and opportunity for all who need that to be able to step up, roll in, and be a part of that. Our Grow Appalachia program, we'll just finished our 10th year. We'll be continuing work with them. Are very excited to have Kelsey Clunan coming on the team to be a Grow Appalachia leader and other agricultural work at Cowan. But we're very proud of the work there and that the farmers have done to boost and grow this along. When you talk about the East Kentucky Canning Coalition, we were at Cowan didn't realize really how we use a residential kitchen, and all these people are canning. We set up cook stoves outside, and again, just a way for community to bond together. People from the Sierra Club talking with coal mine operators that normally would not speak to each other on the streets and think they have nothing in common, but they're deciding how much pickling spice to put in that. So we're a big fan of the Cannon and Cowan Creek canners, and cane grew out of this effort and these projects. So we're also part of the Culture Hub, trying to work with other community partners to spread opportunities, to share support, and to move this along. Just some pictures of the work here. And Cane Kitchen growing. Cane Kitchen has been so valuable during the flood relief work and serving meals with community for that. It's also provided a place for growers to make their own product. I feel I'm taking too long. Shout out to you all for this impact study that happened with planting seeds, harvesting change, and funding that. It is, I think everybody here suffers from doing work, but not only fully recognizing yourself, but even for sure letting others around the region and community know what's happening for many reasons, not just bragging reasons, but for connection reasons, and figuring out how we can share and get together. So appreciate that opportunity. Partner support. So we have been blessed. These are in no order, just as I remember them, but blessed with all sorts of partners here. Definitely college, medical field, CFA, Grow Appalachia. So that. And what's next? We have a high tunnel partnership with the NRCS for a high tunnel project that will allow for about 75 new high tunnels in the area in the next probably 4 years now. So perfect timing for that. The Ambler KADF Market Pavilion Award. We will be building have funding for a new pavilion at the City of Whitesburg Market. It'll be about a $1.2 million market, and we're still looking for ways to grow that, because we want this to be a catalyst and the footprint for our community and shared to be able to be a place of celebration and economic opportunity. ARC USDA has a Raising Cane project to make a product line using and working with addiction recovery workers, so they'll be paid and be able to learn soft skills, gain a resume and references. Cowan was just awarded this week a USDA Regional Community Food Project. It will be working with other partners, and a primary focus of that is regenerative agriculture. We're working with KSU with some water and soil samplings. So we're trying to just be an aggregate for farms and farmers and bringing opportunities here, making sure they're not missed because we're at the corner of the state. And I will say we have not been, our state organizations have been more than willing to come in and support and meet with, and it's made a tremendous difference for the growth here in our community. And just at the end is thoughts. This is just a little reminder for myself. This little boy, I was in the going to the grocery store, and a mom said, "Are you Valerie Horn?" It's like, yeah. And she said, "Okay, my little boy has something for you." And he had painted little rocks for everybody at the market because he enjoyed coming to the market, getting his free meals, getting his opportunity to shop. And so this is what it's about, and this is the difference that it makes and that all of you are making.
That was wonderful, Val. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we'll go ahead and pass it to Jessica Hodges with Community Farm Alliance to talk about Fresh RX for Moms.
All right. Can you all see the slides?
Yep.
All right. So I am the coordinator for the Fresh RX program at Community Farm Alliance, and Fresh RX is funded by a GusNIP grant, produce prescription grant, and it provides, we work with farmers markets. Whoops, sorry, Martin, did you try to say something?
Oh, sorry, no, just cough.
Okay. So we provide 12, 21, or 40-week prescriptions for fresh fruits and vegetables for expectant mothers who are enrolled in Medicaid. The participants can go to the market. They get $24 in tokens that they can use to spend on fruits and vegetables. And then we also fund markets to do nutrition education demonstrations and hire a dietitian to be on staff with the market to support this program. So in 2021, there were 4 markets in the program. We gave each market a set number of participants based on what we thought the capacity would be in that area. A lot of the markets got really close to that. Some had a little more trouble, and some of the challenges we found were just the capacity of the market to manage the program and to build those community partnerships, transportation for participants to get to the market, and just developing those community partnerships, especially with markets who don't already have strong community relationships. So for the 2022 season, we expanded beyond those original 4 markets, which were Lexington Community Farmers Market and Bowling Green, Franklin County Farmers Market, and Perry County Farmers Market. So yeah, we've added Bounty of the Barrens, City of Whitesburg, Covington, Menifee County, Phoenix Hill, Nulu Market in Louisville, and then 2 new programs to sort of address the issue of transportation, where the Black Soil CSA So Black Soils is an organization in Lexington that specifically aggregates produce from farmers of color. So that was a really strong program this year. They were able to fill all their participant slots and administer the full program. Need More Acres Farm in Allen County has a great history. Michelle Howe, most of you probably know her, of having strong community partnerships and doing programs like this, food access programs, and also worked closely with the HANDS program, the school system, and the health department, and were able to fill all their participant spots and deliver meal kit boxes every week to their participants. So that really helped with participant engagement and just made the program more accessible for people with transportation issues. So our goal for 2022 is 377 participants across the state. We also had some funding to provide cooking kits for some of these models. So we were able to provide, I believe there were 11 different items in the cooking kits, things like iron skillets, baking sheets, vegetable peelers, chopping knives, paring knives, just different things that would make cooking with fresh fruits and vegetables a lot easier. Part of this program, we do take surveys from the participants to see what kind of impact the program is having. So we provided the markets with iPads to assist with the surveys, funding to hire the dietitian. And then for 2023, we're excited about maybe partnering with more CSA farms and more organizations like Black Soils that are sort of an aggregation center for multiple farms, just to alleviate the issue of transportation for a lot of these participants, and work more closely with health departments and migrant worker programs or migrant education programs that are already going door to door every week to give them like produce boxes aggregated from local farms or regional farms that they can take on their visits. Does anyone have any questions? Or Martin, is there anything that I left out that you would add?
I think the only thing I would add is internally, right, we have what we call the Healthy Communities Initiative, and that has a number of components: the Fresh RX for Moms, the Kentucky Double Dollars. We also offer community food system assessments, and when the Apple Tree Project, as Val referenced, was active, it was also under that umbrella too. So we're really trying to do, a more comprehensive approach to helping communities.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. Does anyone have any questions for any of the presenters in this panel? Feel free to unmute or put your question in the chat if you'd like. Megan put a question in the chat about the Pharmacy Fit program with ARCD. I believe that we had around 1,500 participants collated from all three markets that we had this year. So we were really excited about that for the first year of the program. It wasn't, she also asked if it was hard to get people interested. It really wasn't. When we launched the program, especially in Kingsport, there was a lot of excitement. The farmers markets themselves did a great job of promoting them, and then ARCD promoted them together. And then we got some news coverage, which helped a lot, but people were generally very excited to participate. Thank you, Megan, for that question. All right, if there's no more questions, I will pass it to Jennifer. I think she's going to take us into a interactive break next. Thank you all very much.
And thank you. It's really good to hear about all of the work going on in the region. Really excited to hear about the new funding up in Letcher County. I look forward to working with that, or working with y'all. We are getting ready for, we're going to take another active break like we have been doing. We've got a Jamboard that I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And we will put some music on and give you an opportunity to share your thoughts on something unique about food insecurity in Appalachia, in Central Appalachia specifically, and also give you an opportunity just to go get another cup of coffee or use the restroom or check your email or whatever you need to do. But if you can be back in about 10 minutes, we'll start with our next presentation. So enjoy a break and share your thoughts, and please come back. We will come back in about a minute or two if you want to get your idea up on the Jamboard and finish pouring that cup of coffee. Okay, thanks to the folks who have contributed to the Jamboard. I think a lot of it echoes the sense of community that we've heard about earlier this morning. And also noting that not all of our local governments are as supportive of our programs as we would want them to be. You have the link to this Jamboard, so please continue to add your ideas to it as we go through today's session. But at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Leslie for the next panel. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. We love these Jamboards. It's also another form to get your feedback. I'll make my plug again later today, but if you have a project to share, a story to tell, please reach out to us. So we're going to segue now into the community empowerment panel. And I think you could say this whole session has been around community empowerment. I mean, it's so uplifting, especially to hear all the different project work and certainly all the flood response pivots that many of our partners have made in Eastern Kentucky. So we're going to hear from three panelists representing Ohio, Eastern Kentucky, and West Virginia, because again, we want to bounce around the region, recognizing that there's a lot happening. And our presenters today are Mary Beth Salim Tanner. She is the Executive Director of Community Food Initiatives, so Ohio-based, also headquartered in ACENET's Food Ventures Center, and one of the anchor organizations of the Appalachian Accessible Food Network. So we'll start with Mary Beth, then we'll bounce to Rosie McVeigh from ARCD. So we'll hear another voice from ARCD. Rosie has, I think, been with ARCD since 2020. She started out as AmeriCorps volunteer and now is full-time working on the Build It Up Backyard project. So she'll be our next speaker. And then we have a return engagement from Adam Hudson, who is the director of Refresh Appalachia at Coalfield Development. He'll be presenting information on Coalfield's sort of amazing project. Myself and a number of other partners just recently visited the high wall location earlier this summer. So really seeing how community engagement, especially with a huge selection of workers, is transforming abandoned mine land into a working farm incubation program. So let's start off with Mary Beth, and Mary Beth is going to talk about CFI's Nourishing Networks. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks, Leslie. Thanks, everybody. I'm incredibly inspired by everything that I've heard today, and I am really grateful and honored to get to be part of this group of folks doing really incredible work. So I do have a few slides, but I'm going to go a little bit back and forth because I think this is a little bit more of a conversation. It's a shorter session. I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we do and maybe give a couple of suggestions or pieces of inspiration or things to think about because all of us do really incredible work. We're all doing a million things all the time and we all know our communities. And I'm starting with that lens, which is we all probably do really different work in very specific places, but we have a lot of the same advantages and we have also some of the same challenges. And so Community Food Initiatives has been around for about 30 years, and it has gone through a lot of different phases, a lot of different evolutions, and has a huge, rich, deep network of community connections. And kind of where it exists right now is that we are going to go ahead and share this. Can you all see that slide with the vegetables? All right. So what CFI does is we work in these various spaces, all of which are toward the mission of fostering communities where everyone has equitable access to healthy local food. So we're based in Athens, Ohio. We work regionally. And in this work, I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but we talk to a lot of people is the point of this slide, right? Every week we're working with about 30 partners of pantries and meal programs. We're meeting with farmers market vendors. We're distributing out fresh local food. We're taking our mobile donation-based market to 3 or 4 different communities. We're seeing folks at the produce auction. We're talking to 100+ first graders. We're talking to a dozen teachers. We're in community gardens. We're in school gardens. And so that third circle here of community engagement is this idea that in every one of our programs, we're really constantly out talking to people, seeing what they need, seeing what's happening in every specific community, and trying to be responsive and flexible and saying, okay, equity to us means not here's the program we deliver, here's the service we provide, but here's where we're with people in relationship, in partnership, in communities, together, constantly trying to identify what are the barriers and then be thoughtful and creative and innovative about where can we leverage the strengths and assets we have to address those barriers. So the strategy I'm going to talk about briefly today is a program called Nourishing Networks. And Nourishing Networks is something that CFI was trained on and worked with the West Virginia University Food Justice Lab. This is their framework that we've been trained in, adapted, and used over the last several years. And Nourishing Networks is essentially just a framework for going into communities and talking to people about what's going on, drawing on their knowledge, drawing on their wisdom, and helping strengthen their connections. So the goals of Nourishing Networks are to facilitate meaningful discussion by bringing diverse community voices to the table. And this is where I'd really encourage folks to think about, often as organizations, we're the sort of bridge builders. So we might meet with those county commissioners, we're talking to funders, we might meet with school boards, but we're also on the ground talking to parents, talking to families, talking to folks who access food resources. And so how can we be the people that literally invite people together around the table and give them a chance to hear from each other? So that's one of the basic tenets of this model. To unpack and identify food insecurity as a systemic issue rather than the result as individual poor decision-making. I won't spend a ton of time on this, but it's a big piece for us that often even really well-meaning programs have embedded in them maybe this assumption or idea that if people just, if people just budgeted better, if people just fill in the blank. And we know there's always an individual component and there's agency, but we know from living in these communities, these issues are bigger. And when people get to hear from each other and say like, oh, you're experiencing that, I'm experiencing that too. Oh, you're having this challenge, I'm having this challenge. Like that's where people start to understand that it's bigger than them. You know, we start to talk about history, we start to talk about patterns, and we can start to talk about shared resources. So understanding barriers by listening and learning. Folks who are living here know what's needed, and we know that. And then really starting to say, okay, what's here? What can we build on? What are the resources? What are the strategies? And in the end, it's all about empowering people. And so I'm going to just really kind of at a high level talk about what this model does, how it does that. And you can think about where this goes in your own work and your own programs, how you might want to adapt it, use it, or build on it. So here's why we think it's important. When we talk to people kind of somewhat formally and bring them together in a space where we hear from them, they hear from each other. That helps us create connections that we can know. And you all know, sometimes community, the challenges are different than in another community 20 miles away. And in that same community, so this lets us be in real time, hearing from folks and knowing what's needed so we can be effective. And in the end, it's about literally being effective. And the best thing about these discussions, even when sometimes it's hard, is we want to know when we're wrong. Like maybe we thought something was needed and that wasn't the right thing. Maybe something worked 6 months ago and it doesn't now. And the only way we know that is by asking people and then listening to them. So we know that that's incredibly important. So what does it actually look like on the ground? This is the piece that we've adapted from WVU. They developed a really great framework. You bring people together, you feed them some food because we all like to eat, and eating builds community, and that's really important. And we come together 2 or 3 times, and we've sort of broken it up differently depending on access and needs. But we spend a session talking about what are the challenges, and there's this wheel we walk through and let people talk about things in different categories and take notes. What are the resources? So what's in this community? What are the ways people do get creative? What are the ways people do find resources? What are the assets we can build on? And then in session 3, and this is really specific to our work, we help people develop their own projects. So this is an example of kind of a graphic that one of our facilitators created after that first discussion, where he said, all right, what are the barriers? And people identified lots of different things. One of the best moments in this, when I've done several workshops now, is we were sitting together with someone who works in food access in the community, really awesome long-term community advocate. And someone talked about like getting home at the end of the day and being really tired and not having the energy to fix a good meal. And the person said, I literally never thought about that. Like that just wasn't in my house. Like in my house, like cooking was always something we did. I like always wondered why people didn't cook. Like it never occurred to me that if you work these, overwhelming hours and you're really tired, that time, not money, not knowledge, not preference, but like time and energy might be the thing that's keeping you from eating well. And so those moments happen all the time when people listen to each other. So we let people talk about what's hard. And then we ask people about, okay, well, what do you do? What is working? What is here? And people bring up everything from, hunting, gardening, programs that are available. Last time I learned you can fish in the pond at our local high school if you ask permission. I didn't know that, but people know all kinds of super creative ways to get access. So it's a chance for people to share those. And then in the third session, this is where the rubber kind of meets the road. And we say, okay, so you named this, you named that. What do you want to do about it? And we let people brainstorm and talk and build their projects together. And then we support them to implement with a combination of staff support and also funding. So we fundraise through local foundations and donations, and we create mini grants. And we grant that directly back out to community folks that want to organize projects that address what they've identified in these conversations. So for example, from the slides I just showed you, what came out in those conversations, people brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas, to do cooking classes. Here are some examples of projects that ended up sort of rising to the top through this process and being implemented. So in one community, there was a local youth organization that partnered with the church and started beehives and did a honey making, sort of teaching people how to do this, creating the infrastructure, and eventually working to hopefully develop a business where this could be sold. So this was one piece. In other communities, people did really different things because every community is different. So one community member created and gave out 60 garden bed boxes. This was during the pandemic when people were really trying to do more gardening and food growing at home. And 60 people in 3 communities got these little beds that could go on their back porches or their decks. So even if they didn't have land access or they rented, they could still grow. They had plant starts, they had resources for that. And then from the one I just showed, what the community ended up planning was a series of 3 workshops. They talked about budgeting. They did one on canning and preserving where folks got supplies. And then they held a community potluck and gave people vouchers to get fresh vegetables from our mobile market and cook together and eat together. So the idea that every community is different and what the solutions and the community building is going to look like is different. And that's like a really wonderful opportunity. And so rather than us coming in and saying, here are the programs we do, which one do you want? Saying, what do you want to do? What will it take? And I think that idea that relatively small investments, and I put this on the Jamboard, in these communities can huge network go on. Community food initiatives, I think, has been really important about this. We're always thinking, how can we make everything we do more? And so we're starting to build these discussions into our existing programs. So when we're doing school programs, then we're going out to the PTO and saying, we're going to organize an RC Networks discussion. Let's send these flyers home with all the kids' parents. You know, when we're working with a pantry, we're saying, hey, please reach out to the folks that are accessing these services and invite them to this discussion. So in every program we're doing, we're trying to build in this community organizing piece where people are coming together, discussing, sharing, and implementing. So thank you. Oh, Leslie, you are muted.
Oh, no matter how long I do this. So Rosie, why don't you go next?
All right, thank you so much. Wow, that was a great presentation. I really enjoyed that. And all of the presentations so far has been just awesome. Yeah, so I am Rosie McVeigh. I work at Appalachian RC&D Council in Johnson City, Tennessee. I work alongside Kayla Nichols that presented earlier. But yeah, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the programs that I run through ARCD. Let me share my screen. Can y'all see that? Great. So one of the main programs that I run is a backyard gardening program. It's called Build It Up. And it is a program that teaches families how to grow vegetable gardens in their backyard. We probably average 30 to 40 families per year. And it takes place from like March through October. So we equip families with anything from education to materials. It's a totally free program, but people do apply to get into the program. We serve families in 3 counties in East Tennessee, and we put special priority on applications coming from folks from low-income families, individuals living on disability, people living on SNAP EBT benefits, that kind of thing. However, our funders do like to see folks from all walks of life in the program. So they want your like family doctor communicating and networking with folks that are living with 6 kids on food stamps. So it is a really diverse program. We provide 6 workshops per year. And that's on everything from planning and planting a garden to season extension to pest and disease control. And then we also provide all the materials for an in-ground garden. So we do tilling for free. We provide seeds and plants. We provide pest and disease control. We provide trellising materials, all the things. And the only thing we ask in return is for harvest totals. So we generally on average about 15,000 pounds of food grown each year. So we are just totally ecstatic with that. We also have a lot of families with kids that get involved with the gardening. One of the highlights for me is getting to do garden visits every year. So I go out and I talk with families, I answer questions, I get to see kids in the garden that are like, oh my gosh, come look at the carrots that we grew. Like, I'm so excited. So that's a really cool thing. And then we also do food preservation workshops throughout the year. So those focus on cooking and canning, even with dehydration, fermentation, things that can get our community engaged with growing and also preserving food and learning how to cook food. And then next year, we are actually going to be providing pressure canners for all of our gardeners as well that are interested. So just trying to like incentivize this ability to grow and then preserve food and have this source of food. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about some of the farming programs that I also put on. So we do a program called Field School, and that has a summer counterpart as well as a winter counterpart. So for summer, we do on-farm workshops, and this is focused for beginning farmers. So we try and get folks that are interested in becoming farmers, or they maybe have 1 or 2 years of experience under their belt. But we go to local farms and visit and see their operations and talk about their startup and things they would have done differently, things like that. But we do focus on like small scale sustainable farming. So each farm has some type of sustainable asset, excuse me. So no-till, like organic, rotational grazing, things like that. And this is a great way to draw in folks that maybe don't know that there are so many resources for them out there. So we work with NRCS and UT Extension, and basically they can educate them on cost share opportunities and how they can get a high tunnel partially paid for, or caterpillar tunnels, or fencing that a lot of folks don't realize is an accessible thing for them. And so we do serve the 10 counties of East Tennessee with this program, pretty much anything east of Knoxville. Folks do have to drive to the workshops, but we found that people are interested enough that they want to drive out to these workshops. So I think this year and most years, we have an average of like 50 to 60 participants throughout the season. And then our winter counterpart is our winter business intensive. So this is an 8 workshop series that goes from November through March. And this is teaching folks the business side of farming. I think a lot of people, they want to start farms and they're like, oh, I want to do the gardening and I want to do cut flowers and I want to do agritourism. And they don't realize how much you need to have a business background to still run a farm. So we teach business planning, marketing, financial planning, taxes, record keeping, insurance, all the things that folks are going to need to equip themselves to run a farm. We do work again with Extension, NRCS. We work with FSA, Tennessee Department of Agriculture, Farm Bureau, lots of partners to make this happen. And we also have we are also Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program accredited, TAPE accredited. So folks have the opportunity to apply for that at the end of the course, and it's good for like 3 years. So they can apply for cost share that way as well. We do offer full scholarships for veteran, minority, and limited resource farmers. And we generally average about 15 full scholarships per year, which is really awesome. And again, we do serve pretty much everywhere east of Knoxville. But basically folks will learn how to write their business plan and submit a business plan to us at the end of the course. And then we will give them feedback on that, and hopefully they start farms. and honestly, if they don't start farms, then that's kind of a success too, because farming is not for everybody. It is super hard work. And if you go through our course and you realize this is not for me, we count that as a win too. But yeah, it's a really, really, really cool place. Another thing that we are focusing on in the past couple of years and future years is supporting women farmers in the region. We have this Women Farmer Learning Circle that we started last year. And it's a group of women farmers. I think we have close to 150 women farmers in the group for East Tennessee. And we meet once a month, and the goal is to get together and socialize and network and stuff, but also learn a new skill. So a lot of times we find that women farmers in the area have had less access to some of the traditional education that male farmers have, or they've inherited a farm from their fathers or from their husband or something like that. And so they don't have as much understanding of things, or they're just wanting to expand their operation and get into something new. And so we provide workshops, and honestly, it's a lot of fun for me because, we get together with food and wine, and it's just a good time. But some of our past workshops, we've done mushroom inoculation, we've done fruit tree grafting, we've done organic compost, we've done tractor maintenance, on-farm chicken processing, like just really, really cool stuff. And I mean, I think it's really cool too. And then it's an excellent way for women farmers to get to know other women farmers in the area and to network and to be like, oh, we went and visited a cut flower farm the other day. Maybe I want to incorporate some cut flowers onto my farm. So that's the real goal. And that's just, I just love it. And then starting this year, we are going to be doing a Women Preserving Farmland for the Future workshop. So we'll be doing this about twice a year. And it's a series of 3 workshops for women farmers who have specifically inherited land and are trying to learn how to preserve it for future generations. And so that could be someone who's been widowed or has inherited from their parents, and is trying to figure out what to do with the land. So it will be taught by women in the industry. So very, very women focused. And then it will be kind of covering a lot of the stuff that you don't really think about. So like leasing and easements and estate planning, financials, natural resource conservation, succession planning. So things that are a great way to preserve the land for the future, as well as making it easier on the owner. So each series of workshops will take place in a different county. So this November, we're starting in Washington County, and then we'll move on to different counties within East Tennessee. But it's a great way for women in very specific circumstances to get the education that they need to continue to run a successful farm. So those are the programs that I run, and we are working to improve, and yeah, it's just a great set of programs. So that's all I have for you.
You're still muted, Leslie.
I am talking on mute again. So I think just to be sensitive to time, we'll move on to Adam. And Adam, go ahead and show your slides. Adam is the director of Refresh Appalachia, and he's going to talk about the amazing high wall location.
Can you see the high wall presentation?
We can see it.
All right. So as I said, I'm Adam Hudson. I'm director of Refresh Appalachia, and which is a program within Coalfield Development. A little bit of information here on Coalfield. we work in a lot of the southern coalfield counties in multiple sectors. And this project at Highwall is a multi-sector project that involves our revitalized construction enterprise, as well as our conservation teams and work that they do, and then the refresh agriculture side of the work as well. And I think, and this is based in Mingo County, right outside of, in between Del Barton and Matewan, which very hard hit community with the downturn of the coal economy, a lot of displaced coal miners and workers. And so we've actively worked in Mingo County since about 2013. And but this project, we started this in late 2018. And as I said, it's a collaboration with Revitalize, who built a small cabin on this site first. And you can see here the grounds up there. It's a typical mountaintop removal site with bare rock, minimal grass, minimal soil structure. And so our goal with this, while Revitalize is building cabins in partnership with Blue Sky Realty as kind of a tourism aspect, we are rotating livestock on this property and employing some displaced coal miners in our workforce development program to learn about agriculture and then continue to actively do this work. And it's a smaller site, honestly. You can see it's kind of, there's two sides to it, the east and the west side of this. And it's hard to put in even pictures here how steep up this is, and the difference down on this main area where the road is, and compared to where the main activity is happening. So we've spent a lot of time though rotating poultry, pasture poultry, a small sheep herd, a couple of small head of cattle, very small scale but very intensive, continually moving them through, and pigs also on this property. And then we've processed, for the most part, we've used the on-farm processing ability we've got, and have gone through those exemptions to be able to sell that product. Most of it has gone back locally, with a lot of it being sold either in Del Barton, West Virginia, or in Williamston, West Virginia at the farmer's market. Here you can see the crew. We did put a high tunnel on this site. High tunnel serves multiple purposes. In the summertime, it is a structure to store some feed in and then to do some work in. But then in the wintertime, it serves as a structure that provides shelter for multiple livestock, the livestock that we do overwinter. So kind of dual purpose there. Plus, with the livestock in the winter, they're building that rich manure layer that then can be, some crops can be planted into. This will be the first year. This coming next year will be the first year we will actually be maybe planting more in that than we will be using it for summer storage. Most of the stuff that they've done on this site has been fabricated from a lot of the down trees and things that they've had to just take down to clear view sheds to allow for more viewing from the tourist side of it. And as you can see here, that's one of the chicken coops that they've designed. On this side of the property, you can see where the guys here are standing. That eventually will also be a wellness center in partnership with Williamson Health and Wellness Center, and provide a recovery retreat of sorts. So it'll be a place that those can come for a couple of days at a time to attend, like they'll bring in a speaker, seminars, those type of events that will happen there. Of course, the event space also, from the financial standpoint, they've factored in how much time would need to be spent if it was like weddings and other events, and that balances out the cash flow, and therefore projections would lead to a profitable business, but also has a deep impact on the local communities that it's serving. The idea for that would take place in the next 2 years for the actual wellness center, and that amount of time too, there would be about 6 more cabins built in that time frame as well. You can see here some of the livestock that's gone through, and you can just see the views up there. They're unmatched to anything else. I mean, you can see behind these chickens, and it's crazy just the difference too. You can also see how much greener, if you look here on the bottom right with the poultry there, the grass is just from, for one thing, there's grass. There wasn't grass in some of those other pictures. And to see that growth, I think I've got some pictures here on the last slide, just comparing a couple of the spaces with the grass growth. A concept that we tried in the past that I did want to highlight is this rock crusher you can see here in the top left of this slide. And that was used at another former mountaintop site in Mingo County, and to just really till up the ground to make it workable. So this is one of our third tries at doing different work on these sites, and it's complicated. We know it's complicated. Most of these sites have not necessarily been reclaimed to a workable setting for agriculture. However, it's big open space. So we're trying to maximize the space and maximize the efficiency of the space that we are working with too. One way that we're doing that I don't have a picture of yet, in the next spring, we're going to be breaking ground on a solar installation on this site. So the aesthetic of it is going to be very cool to look at, because you're going to have the high wall, like the mine top high wall on that steep mountain, and then you're going to have a string of solar panels along the top, and potentially options to graze underneath some of those as well. So incorporating all of these different systems and parts and pieces of what makes this site move into one. And then with expansion of that, we're looking at how do we work with Mingo County schools to provide education on this site as well. So the school is just across the road at the bottom of the hill from them. So there's a lot of relationships, and there was a solar training done there as well around solar, and then using mineland sites as, for the stilted solar panel installation. And that should be my last slide. A little bit shorter than the others, but Leslie did ask me yesterday if I would join, so which I'm happy to. So happy to be with everybody.
Thanks, Adam. So let's just pause for a few minutes. I know that there was one chat question directed to Rosie, and it sounded like, are people transitioning, I guess, from community gardeners to full-fledged farmers. So it sounds like you definitely have programs geared to farm and beginning farmers as well as women farmers. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so what I didn't mention, but I should have, is our Build It Up backyard gardening program has also a sister program for marketing, for market gardening. So we do actually see folks in that program that are either transitioning from a backyard gardening setting and then selling at the farmer's market, or they've just come in and they just want a market garden and then transition to farming. So we probably average like maybe 5 folks per year that participate in our market gardening program. And then we do also see a lot of folks turn from Build It Up and go into field school. So they will go from backyard gardening, maybe selling at the farmer's market a little bit throughout the season, to then going into like our winter field school business session, and really gaining the tools to continue on into farming.
Thank you, Rosie. Well, again, we're running a little bit behind time, so I'm going to continue to move us along, but thanks, Mary Beth, Rosie, and Adam. You can continue to ask some questions in the chat. I'm sure they will be responsive. But we're going to next talk about this trend. A lot of folks are referring to it as food as medicine. And we have 2 presenters on our panel. Tom Redfern, who is the Director of Sustainable Agriculture at Rural Action. You've seen Tom before. He's going to talk about many of the project partners with both healthcare institutions and some of the other healthcare providers in Southeastern Ohio and West Virginia that Rural Action and the Appalachian Accessible Food Network partners with. And then we're also delighted, many thanks to Patty Miller for identifying Dr. Emma Eggleston at the West Virginia University, I guess, School of Medicine, who is both an MD and a master's in public health, who will be with us this afternoon to talk about the Farm to You program as well. And that's going to be our healthy food access wrap up here this afternoon. So thank you for all the folks who are still hanging out with us. And I'm going to pass the baton here to Tom. Tom, I have your slide ready. If you would like me to pull it up, just tell me when I should do that.
Yeah, you can go ahead and pull it up.
Okay, great.
Just to give some framework.
Well, now I've got to find it, of course.
So hi, everybody. I'll get started. I'm Tom Redfern. I'm the Director of Sustainable Agriculture for Rural Action. And like Leslie mentioned earlier, we are members of the Appalachian Accessible Food Network. So, which includes ACENET plus Community Food Initiatives, who very inspiring presentation by Mary Beth. So the big thing, we came into this work thinking about how we could connect the local food system with institutional buyers. So we first did that by building a food hub, like a social enterprise, which is the Chester Hill Produce Auction. So what are like the demand networks which exist for food, which we could hook that up with to grow it, to kind of bring the market power of institutions to the local food system. And the huge one is, of course, the healthcare institutions. So within Rural Action's Sustainable Agriculture program, we do a project that we think of internally as produce prescriptions. So that entails partnering with 2 healthcare providers, Hopewell Health Systems here in Southeast Ohio, plus Copeland Healthcare, which is headquartered in Work County, West Virginia. Through that partnership this year, we served 225 households through 9 counties in Ohio and West Virginia. And here's the slide, just a quick brief slide, because I think what I decided to kind of focus on real briefly today is like the numbers that this work can generate in terms of purchasing from local producers. So there's the numbers from the produce prescriptions. You can see, so what we're doing is, we heard about that earlier this morning. Right now we're doing the contactless bag method, but we are thinking about moving back to more of a choice system. But the beauty of the bags is we can put them on our van, we can assemble them. We have 2 refrigerated vehicles, so it's really allows us to have a broad reach. So we're purchasing at the auction. Which puts the money in the farmers we work with. Then we're taking that to the the offices of the healthcare providers, where they distribute it with wraparound services. You can see under produce prescriptions, there's a line that's healthy pantry. Shares. So this is a new element that we added with the Hopewell partnership this year. Basically, we're giving people spices, recipe books, knives, vegetable peelers, spices, things like that, which can really, like we heard earlier, many people don't have those basic things. So making sure we can actually facilitate the use. So that's pretty much the basics of our produce prescription. Plus this year, we partnered with the Southeast Ohio Food Bank, which serves 10 counties in all through Appalachian, Ohio. Where through the auction, they purchased directly from our producers. And then we took it to the food bank where they distributed it with recipes, etc. And it became really important this year that they had that. Because they had real big issues with their supply chains. So being able to hook into that local food system where we could bring it, they could distribute it, was a big impact this year. So you can see the farm stand. Basically, that's a partnership which we've done for years. This year we did it with Camden Clark in Parkersburg, West Virginia. But basically, that's like thinking about the people that work in the healthcare system, making sure they can have easy access to farm products, because we set that up in the cafeteria. So workers purchase it, and it's been very popular. So that's just a quick overview of our produce prescriptions, but with the emphasis on the money. So you can see pretty close to $100,000 worth of money from the local farmer into the healthcare system.
Pretty amazing impact at so many different levels, Tom.
Thanks. Plus, I have to add, it's real inspiring to hear the presentations we had today. So I appreciate it, everybody. And I think they touched on, the basics of it real well. So you can just see, here's some dollars behind it.
Okay, well, let's transition now to Dr. Emma Eggleston. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Dr. Emma. Again, recommended from one of our partners in West Virginia, Patty Miller, who is also one of the co-organizers of the summits. So we'll let you share your screen if you have slides. But maybe if you'd like to do just a short introduction, I know you've had a career that's taking you to many locations, but we're happy that you're in West Virginia with us now.
Yeah, great. Well, can you guys hear me?
We can.
Perfect. Thank you for the invite. And the program I'm going to show you is actually similar to what Tom just covered, but nowhere near as well developed. So Tom, that's really exciting work. And just a quick question, I wasn't able to be on earlier. I hope with the recordings, are those going to be sent out? Because I'd love to hear the other presentations, Leslie, if that's possible.
Yes, one of the great opportunities, because we know people are very busy and sometimes can only attend a portion, is that all the recordings are linked within the cannetwork.org website. And then our communications team, Megan and Kayla, usually send out friendly reminders too. So all these resources, this is the fourth summit, are available for anyone to see and anyone to share.
Great. So I'll just give you a quick one-liner about myself, or two-liner, and then we'll jump right into the slides, which hopefully I will get to share effectively. I'm not great with IT, but can't be too hard. So, so I'm originally from Virginia. My grandmother's family is from the Eastern Panhandle in Morgan County, which is a beautiful county here out east. So I would come to the region kind of often and grew up just over the border. And then I'm an endocrinologist by training, did public health school first in Carolina, then became an endocrinologist, so do a lot of diabetes work. And when I was at UVA, did a lot of work, outreach work in the coal counties of southwestern Virginia, and a lot of in that realm beginning to think about food access in Appalachian counties. So then when I had a career up in Boston, et cetera, came back this way to kind of help head up some diabetes and obesity prevention efforts for WVU. And in that work, I've had some opportunities to try to engage in all of this. So as a diabetes doc, you're constantly talking to your patients about food because it's the core thing. And I had thought to myself, if only I had the food right here to be able to, because you're constantly talking about how do you cook it, what can you eat, what can we switch out. And so there was that sort of clinical wish on my part that you could incorporate the food right there into the visit with the patient. Then with my public health hat on, let me back up to say West Virginia already does such amazing group work in this space, as does a lot of folks here in the Eastern Panhandle. There was already lots of really pretty amazing food access work going on in this community when I came. So with my public health hat on, my perspective is sort of healthcare institutions need to be anchoring institutions. There need to be health system community partnerships. And with my work in my prior life, I did a lot of work in that space and in the social determinants of health and how can healthcare actually really make an impact. So when I was here, I had the opportunity, because of all the great work already being done, to kind of try to help get some of that started. So what I'm going to show you is our Farm to You program, which is one of the ways we do a lot of work in this space, but this is one of the ways that we work with our local farmers and try to do that healthcare to community bridge that I was explaining. So let me get us into the right view. This may, see, this does this where I lose you guys and then I can't see you, but I guess that's okay. Can you see me and can you see the slides?
We do not see the slides yet on.
Okay, let me get back out. It says it's sharing, but let me just do share. Can you see any slides now?
No, Yeah.
Oh, it's not, it's saying I have to sign into Office. Why is it making me do that? Hang on one quick sec. This is the problem with all the firewalls in a healthcare system. They're there to protect the data. I sent the slides as well, I believe, to Megan. I don't know if you guys have them to pull up, or Patty does.
Okay.
Mainly it's got some good pictures, so it would be
Okay,
great.
well, we'll see if we can find them and pull them up, but go ahead.
Okay. Just sorry, it's doing this to us.
That's all right. We all struggle with technology.
Yeah, and just why it's making me log in now of all times. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to quickly text Patty to say, can she load them for us? Because I think a picture is worth 1,000 words. Can you load?
I'm trying to get to those now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And
Can you-
Justin,
Perfect.
Megan, we can try to and see which one of us gets there first.
Yeah, sure. Perfect. So I'll
We'll
just
find them. We'll get
Yeah.
them.
That sounds great. So basically what the program is we work with local farmers in several of our counties to bring produce directly to our clinics. And it's free, and we basically work with the farmers with whatever's in season. So rather than an overt prescription, the farmers come to the clinical site, they bring whatever produce is in season, and then we've worked with them, so we have tailored recipes right there. And then pre-pandemic, we would actually do a lot of cooking demonstrations. So one thing to know that supports this program is we have a lot of medical students and faculty very involved in this work. And we have a program called the Med Chefs program, where the students learn all how to cook, and then they take the produce working with the farmers, and they cook, and then they've learned how to teach their patients as well. So it's kind of a group effort. And so we started with one clinic. We started with our Center for Diabetes and Metabolic Health. And once we get them loaded, just show you some of those early pictures to kind of get our feet underneath us with this project. And as I mentioned, the goal is to weave it into the clinical visit so that you are helping with their diabetes management, heart disease. We have a pediatrics, a children's program. So we do it across the age range. And the other thing about it, and I'll just go through the text of the slides, is we have really specific guiding principles. The first is, as I said, that open access. So we talked a lot about that, and we wanted it to be available to any patient. In part, just because most of our patients need access to healthy foods where we are, but also we wanted to put choice and reduce perceived stigma of being a part of a program where you may be needing financial help. We didn't want people for that to be a barrier. Perfect, thank you. Do you mind flipping to, there you go. So I think I've already told you what it is. Can we flip to the next slide? Perfect. So this is our original metabolic center where we started everything. And I should have mentioned that this center is based on the 4 pillars. So sleep, stress, food, and movement. So we started here because we teach all of our patients about those 4 pillars and address it with every single patient. Could we go to the next slide? So the guiding principles, as I mentioned, we wanted open access so that anybody could just walk right up. We also opened it up to our staff so that staff could partake. And we did that very intentionally. The other thing we wanted to do was have choice. Now I should have put a star there because with our growing season or whatever's happening with our farmers, we wanted the patients. So we have little farm to you bags, little canvas totes, and people can just put whatever they want in those bags. And then again, we've got the tailored recipes to what's available, but recipes for what's in the bag. And then if you're my patient and you come in to see me, we can talk about what's in the bag and how you might cook it and how you might do it. The way it's evolved now that we've rolled it out to other clinics is patients may or may not be seeing a provider to talk about the food in the bag, but it's really taken off and we didn't want to restrict it. So we wanted patients to have choice of what food they wanted, so that it's giving them that kind of autonomy. And it's really funny what people will pick, like with my own patients who will say, I would absolutely never eat kale. And then later they find, you know, there's some really delicious kale and now they love the kale. And so it's so much better than me saying, I'm prescribing you kale, because then they're not going to eat the kale. But if they get to see it, touch it, see the recipe, they can totally change their mind. So I've already mentioned incorporating into the medical visit. The reason I say choice with a star is sometimes we have just a huge spread, and sometimes the only thing that's available is a rutabaga and, you know, some little mini zucchini. So it kind of depends on what the farmers have available. The other thing, I think I've covered most of these, other than the other thing about, we really wanted to make sure we were supporting our local farming economy. So we don't do prescriptions like you can go to the grocery store and get fresh fruits and vegetables. That's a really effective model. We had just chosen to start small and do it this way and really work with our local farmers. The one quick thing I would say with the farmer needs is, depending on what the season has been like, we try to be super flexible with them. So if they can't quite make it, we call up a different farmer and say, do you have some produce available? We try to really be flexible with them. So these are just pictures from that very first year. You see, you know, people picking things up, talking about them. This was just when we were in that first clinic. Want to go to the next one? Then here's some more pictures. These are, that is a nutrition student from WVU teaching how to make zucchini pasta. This is Farmer Tab, one of our biggest farmer supporters and collaborators. This is in that first year or second year. Could you go to the next one? So then we expanded during COVID, and we expanded to 3 clinics in 2020, but we lost some things. So here you can see everything available, and the patients have their bag and they can just pick whatever they want, or the staff. And it's been a really big thing for staff. It's been interesting how much it's engaged them and how many have then started to work on their own kind of approach to food. But one of the things we lost was being able to do those in-person teaching demonstrations I was telling you about. Next slide, please. This one, we added another clinic, and then so we were up to 4 by 21 to 22, and this is one of our high school volunteers. And you can see on the left there are some of the recipes that she'll then run through with patients. Next slide, please. So then another thing we added was flowers. So the mental health, you know, pressures of COVID, which is so tremendous. And I saw in just pretty much all of my patients, no matter their walk of life, just everybody was struggling so hard. And sometimes there's just nothing like some flowers. So we found a little bit of donated funds and reached out to some other local flower farmers and started flowers. And as you can see, I love this picture. Our gentleman in the middle here is, you know, the perfect example. He's got his bowl from the recipes that we taught him. This was actually this year when we could open back up to teaching. So he's sampling the stuff that is in his basket. He's got his puppy dog with its little mask on, and then he's got the flowers. And so you can see here, people can pick, including flowers if they want them. And I've got to tell you, the impact on people with the flowers has surprised even myself as a flower lover. So that's something we're actually going to try to expand in the future. Next slide, please. So this is just showing you, we've had 99 overall events in the last 2 years. I just picked the last 2 years because the prior two, as you saw, we were doing it in 1 or 2 clinics. So we've given out over 3,000 shares, which is about 34,000 directly invested with our local farms. Next year it'll be quite a bit more, and I'll show you why. In 2020, when we really said, okay, let's make this more than just a pilot, we went from 50% of the food being taken to now it's 100%. And now we kind of run out early, which is a disappointment for the families who regularly come, because there are families that really engage with this. So we're really going to try to up what we can provide. And then I'll just tell you that on this last slide, if we could go to the last slide of where we are. So we managed to get through a USDA NIFA GusNIP grant that will allow us to expand to about 7 to 10 clinics, which is really exciting. We partnered with them to do a mobile teaching kitchen that we can take to the different clinics so that we can do that teaching with our patients. I put a star next to it just because we're matching that funding on the Health Sciences Center side. Because if you recall, I said we didn't want to restrict. We want to be able to do this with community partners. If you're not a WVU medicine patient, we want to be able to teach you how to cook and do all of that. And so I'm matching, the Health Sciences Center is matching those funds in order to be able to keep the access broad. The USDA grant is going to allow us in our clinics to more overtly make it a part of the medical record, and the patients who meet the criteria, there'll be a subgroup who get a more intensive program through the USDA grant, and then we'll still be able to keep that kind of open to all so that people don't feel that they're being sort of tagged. The other things we're going to do is, because of the really profound impact of the fresh cut flowers, we're going to try to identify more donor funds and or write a small grant to expand that program. We have condition-specific recipes and blogs, and we really want to build that out. So pregnancy, renal disease, what if you're older and you're losing muscle mass? And then obviously we need to measure it, evaluate it, and expand it. So thank you for allowing us to explain all of this, and here many thanks to our farmers, our generous funders, and our amazing team.
Well, thank you, Dr. Emma. Again, it's always amazing how similar a lot of these programs are, but how they're customized to their communities and the partnerships. I'm looking in the chat to see if there's any questions. So we'll take a few here. I guess I have one. Maybe we can start with you, Dr. Emma, and then go to Tom. So COVID, the last, 32 months now of COVID have really, I think, made us think differently about healthy food access. It looks like there's much more investment on the horizon. And I guess, what future innovations or adaptations do you see in 23, 24 moving forward with this work, especially as we all try and reach more folks?
So I'll just take a quick stab, which is, at least for my hope, is that we can gather enough data that we can influence policy making. With a healthcare hat on, I would love if we can influence payers and reimbursement for food as medicine, because they're really compelling, data from other parts of the country and other parts of the world for this work. So that's a specific way, but more globally with our policy makers to fund this work and have it be, sustaining. I would love to see it more overtly prescribed. I can't remember who was on earlier, but talking about the exciting work in recovery. So there's a lot of literature on therapeutic gardens, which we've been trying to get going here. And it's a little complicated because some of the health department rules and all these things you have to get through. But I think there are really exciting ways that there's the healthy food, but also just the mental health aspects of the act of gardening and using the land. So I'm pretty excited about all of that potential, but be interested in the ideas of others.
So Tom, and maybe Mary Beth, you want to jump in here, or anyone can jump in. I mean, what does the near future hold?
So in 2023, we're looking to expand, especially in Ohio. We're talking internally, about the places where we can, moving away from the pre-bagged, which we really needed to do. And it has a lot of pluses, but like we've heard today, it's nice to offer that equitability of people being able to select what they want. So to see where we can implement that more and just expanding it to more counties. And making sure it's integrated, with the cooking, maybe a narrower, somehow we reach out to a client, the health centers work with their clients to see what would be the pieces of equipment, for a kitchen that would really facilitate this, and monitoring the crop usage and sharing that with farmers to hook that into the production. And we're also starting an advisory board to work with us, made up of, healthcare practitioners and maybe also interested participants to really get that feedback.
Thanks, Tom. It also seems like more pop-up markets and mobile markets are on the horizon in terms of expansion in Central Appalachia. So I don't know, Mary Beth, or even CFA folks, in terms of some of the things that you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I would just affirm that, Leslie. I think that is true. I think, at CFI, we do distribution to partners, and we have seen just more of the idea of what are creative ways we can meet people where they are. So we don't do formal produce prescriptions. We love it. Rural Action does that. It's a really huge need. We sometimes kind of end up partnering with some of the same doctors' offices because they'll put out harvest tables where they'll just have free produce for people to take, and staff and patients are accessing those at the same time. Or we're seeing more asking to bring that food to the library, to the school, to the trying to sort of decentralize that network and get to where people are is definitely true. And more people asking us to bring our mobile market. And yeah, I mean, transportation is always a challenge, but I think people are getting really creative about how do we both overcome that challenge and see every time we give out food, as folks were just talking about here, as an opportunity to build community and build connections and have people cook together, eat together, have food together between doctors, patients, staff, and community members, teachers, families, all of those different spaces.
Great, thanks. Anybody have anything else to add? Okay, I think we're coming to the end of our time together today for the summit. Thanks again to Tom Redfern, the Director of Sustainable Ag at Rural Action, and Dr. Emma Eggleston of the West WVU Medicine. We really appreciate you taking time to present to us today. And again, I think as we've been together since 9 this morning, the similarities and the themes of this work across Central Appalachia just totally amazes me. And I'm just always thinking about how do we get more people within and outside of the region to know about the level of innovation that's happening. So hopefully these summits are one way. So in terms of the wrap up, again, please visit cannetwork.org. Please share the link of this recording and previous recordings. We know people's lives are busy. We're very thankful that 40 plus people have pretty much stayed on with us since 9 this morning. I'm sure you've been doing a little bit of multitasking, myself included, but your attention is really appreciated and very meaningful for us as we continue to put this work together for Summit 5 and Summit 6. So that said, please, 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 please reach out to us if you have some ideas that you would like to present, be more engaged in this conversation, highlight stories of success from your communities. We really want to share this information. As we said early in the opening, Jennifer has a poll that is up on your screen right now that we would love some information on. It looks like we're getting some information filled out. And Jennifer, do you want to say anything more about evaluation at this stage?
I think we're good. Folks are filling it out. So I would just echo, if you have programs that should be highlighted, other ideas for topics to address in these summits, this long answer section is a great place to put it.
Great. Yes. Do it now, do it later, do it often. Give us feedback. We want all the information we can get. So stay tuned. The next summit will be at some point in December, probably on a Thursday, probably in a 9 to 1 format, although no promises at this point. We're really going to focus on the food system infrastructure that's been developed over the last 5, 10, 20 years, how it connects. So if you're interested in learning more about food hubs, about distribution networks, about kitchen incubators, about shared use commercial kitchens, about social enterprise marketplaces, that will be a session to attend. And then our capstone summit with some of our newer partners will be hosted at some point, future date in January as well.